if he wouldn't have gotten the splash post game because they lost it 12-11. That would have been tough.
Dude, it's amazing because when the lineup came out, I said, you know what? Let's get here. Matt Duffy cleaning up.
Yep.
Like, if you're going to have a cleanup hitter on your team, have it be Matt Duffy. And then he goes out there and drives in a run and his first or second at bat, whatever it was. But he's going 1 for 4 with a double. And well, he hit the double. I guess he didn't drive in the run. He got a third, whatever it was. It doesn't matter. But he did score a run there. What was fascinating is, like, you know, we've talked about the guys, the Garcia and Witt and players like that, and Prado and Salvi, been the offense. Drew Waters certainly coming on as of late, but the bottom of the lineup last night, Fermin, Edward Olivares, Drew Waters, and Dairon Blanco went 9 of 14,
Amazing.
Drove in 7, and had 6 extra base hits last night. Those 4 guys was just fascinating to watch, and Blanco got a stolen base. I mean, he went Ellie De La Cruz on us. He went 2 doubles, a triple, 3 RBIs, 3 runs scored, and a stolen base in that game. You know, for one night. For one night, the Royals had somebody that Reds fans get to enjoy a lot for the next, I don't know, however long he's going to play there in Cincinnati. But it was a fun game. There were certainly some concerns from that game, you know, in that Daniel Lynch continues to not strike anybody out. And he couldn't get Torkelson out, and that's unfortunate. A couple home runs result in 5 runs given up, but it's also, you know, the continual. Yeah, I mean, is he pitching to contact? Is it just simply that the stuff isn't good enough to get that many swing and misses? He's got 34 strikeouts in over 52 innings pitched this year. That ain't great. You know, 3 walks or 2 walks, 3 Ks last night. You know, there's certainly some concerns. Scott Barlow had been pitching really good as of late, and he goes out there and gives up 4 earned runs in 1 inning. And we'll talk with Jeff Montgomery about this, but I know from playing fantasy baseball in that I never want a guy who I have in there in my lineup as someone to get saves as a closer. I don't want to see him in the game in a non-save situation. I just feel like that always ends up being a roller coaster. And maybe it's a mentality of it. Maybe you go out there and go, okay, well, this isn't high leverage. I got a 5-run lead. Let's just go out there and just, you know, I would say pound the strike zone and just get out of here. And then he gets hit around, except for, you know, the 3 walks by Scott Barlow. And I don't know if it's being locked in or being fine when it comes to your pitches and pitch mechanic and repeating those things. But man, it always scares me when a closer, a guy who works in high-leverage situations, comes in with a 5-run lead, and it feels like, well, we're just getting him some work here. Just getting some work in. We had him up, and he was pitching. Let's just go ahead and put him in the game and go ahead and shut this thing down. It got close. It got high leverage, and then he came through with the lazy fly ball to center field for Drew Waters, and the Royals end up winning the game. I'm actually not concerned about Scott Barlow. If that was a save situation and the Royals were up by 3 and he gave up 4 runs and they lost and he blew the game, and it'd be a little more concerning. But the way that he had been pitching in high leverage situations, and then you bring him in a game like that, I just feel like there's something about closers in non-save situations that it's always a roller coaster.
I wish I wasn't worried, and I think I am, not even for like Kansas City Royals 2023 or 2024 reasons, right? Like I don't want to see Scott Barlow anymore, period. That might be the end of my sentence. I don't want to see Scott Barlow because we are so far beyond his peak value. Like it is so frustrating, and not even on like a Brad Keller scale, who we didn't talk about him yesterday and what's going on with him in the minor leagues. It just looks like it might be over. But with Barlow, we knew that he was a great trade asset. We knew there was a best time to move him, and it was just, no, we're going to hold him on. Hold on here. Maybe we're close. Maybe we can use him on a contending baseball team sometime around here in the near future. And now it's just every time he goes out there, it stinks. I don't enjoy that this is where my headspace is at, but I'm not excited to see what he could do. I am nervous that he's going to either look erratic or at some point grab his forearm or elbow or shoulder, and that's going to be it. Like that is what I am thinking about every single time Scott Barlow takes the mound now. I don't think that that's how you should watch baseball, but it's where I am stuck with him in particular at this point.
Yeah, no, I totally understand the people that would be concerned when you look at Scott Barlow in sort of that trade value and saying, this is really what this year is about for Scott Barlow is what can you get from him? And maybe the Royals found something in a trade that they got from the Rangers with Aroldis Chapman and the way that Reagans was pitching over the weekend. But the fact that, Barlow since June 27th. So in his 6 outings. So his last 5 outings before last night, he had given up only 1 earned run in that time. And even going back to June 17th, so that would have been 10 outings. In 10 outings, he had only given up a run in 2 of the 10. So 8 out of 10 outings, he would have thrown up zeros. And then last night he gets hit around. Those non-save situations always concern me. So I'm less worried, I think, than a lot of people about a trade value from last night's game specifically, Josh. Last night's game specifically. I understand the thought process around you are trading them at a lower value than you would have gotten back a year ago. Mm-hmm. That much acknowledged. I am in complete agreement with that. But that ship has already sailed. Yep. We can't go back in time. We can't reverse and say, oh, you should have traded him then. Because if we can do that, then you should have traded Whit Merrifield 2 years ago. Yep. You should have traded Danny Duffy before it got to the point to where he was on the IL and you traded him to the Dodgers, who were like, we'll take a chance, but we'll throw something your way and you can have this lottery ticket that 4 out of the 5 scratchers have already been scratched off. So good luck. And so, yeah, there are guys that they should have traded along the way when you would have maximized that value. That part's already lost. That part's done. So trading him this year, last night's outing specifically does not deter me in, oh my God, nobody's going to want this guy. Because I think people can look at it and scouts can look at it. And honestly, I don't think the Royals would give him away for just scraps. I think the Royals would say, all right, if you're not going to give us value and we don't think we're going to get anything back, there's no reason to trade him just for the sake of trading him. Right. If the Royals were to get back someone who has 0 chance of ever pitching in the major leagues, people want the Royals to trade Scott Barlow because you want something in return, because you want to at least have a lottery ticket or something in return that you think can present value when the Royals might be ready to compete whenever that happens. But if the only offer is some random scrub who the Royals don't believe is ever going to make it, and teams are just sort of lowballing because they don't believe in Scott Barlow, well, then what's the point? You hold on to him, and hopefully next year he rebounds, is pitching, phenomenally, and gets the fastball, miles per hour back, and then you can trade him and maybe get more for him. But if not, you've already missed your window. You've already missed the window. Mm-hmm. So just trading him for scraps for the sake of trading him for scraps, to me, doesn't make a whole lot of sense. I think they will trade him, but I also think they'll trade him because there are enough teams out there that need bullpen help, that need arms, and there aren't a lot of great ones just sitting out there. And I think Scott Barlow's track record and the fact that there is control next year to where you can go into next year with that guy somewhere in your bullpen, even if it's a 7th-inning guy. Herrera was incredibly valuable to this Royals team. Mm-hmm. He wasn't a closer when they won the World Series. He was a 7th man when they went to the World Series, and he was the 8th inning when they won the World Series. Never a closer. If Scott Barlow's that for a team that's going to contend, he'd be damn good in that role. If he's going to be the closer for a team that will contend, maybe there's a little more concern about that team. But the fact that they, missed the maximum value, to me, doesn't then put him in a position to where, well, you have to trade him no matter what, even if a team is not willing to give you anything and you don't believe any of the guys in return will ever be of value to your club.
Yeah, no, I agree with that fundamentally. This is not one of those times when it's like, here's how I'm seeing it, and everyone else should follow my lead. This is like my brain has been broken by the Royals overvaluing their own guys and then getting lesser value in the years to come. That is just like my baseline expectation that I'm really hoping that they earn a path away from that reputation. That is not a healthy way to live, nor do I think it's the smartest way of looking at all of this. It's just what happens when I see Barlow jogging out at this point. To your point about last night in particular, yeah, I certainly hope that Major League Baseball scouts aren't going to look at that and go, I don't know about this Barlow fella. This resume of these last few years, man, he's been pretty impressive, but 4 runs against the Tigers, and I don't know about this one, folks. I also don't think the Royals will have seen that performance and go, oh God, we've got to pull this ripcord before his arm falls off, because that's not what we're seeing either. In a much smaller sample size, I can't drink because I'm talking right now. In a much smaller sample size and in a different but somewhat similar situation, we saw Aroldis Chapman look like he was inches away from completely imploding.
Yeah,
3 different times maybe, or 3 times in a week and a half sort of period, and he still had value based off of what he had done, and then he pitched a little better after those near meltdowns also. So I think things are fine. I still think they will move Barlow. I think they will get some reasonable value back. I have such a fearful internal monologue when it comes to the Royals making positive transactional moves that I am scarred by that, without that being reasonable, without that needing to apply here. That's just my Royals baggage, and it's going to take me a while to check all of that, I think.
Yeah, and we'll see as much. So if there are people concerned about Scott Barlow and saying, well, the recent game, specifically last night, would impact his trade value, even if what has been more of an extended, prolonged, positive outing for Scott Barlow, if it's just simply that sample size, then the inverse would be true, and you would say, well, Jordan Lyles is now, you got to trade him because his stock has never been higher, because he's had back-to-back outings where he's gone 11 innings total and given up 1 earned run with 9 strikeouts and 1 walk. It's like, okay, he looks like a valuable asset for a team, but nobody believes Jordan Lyles would present anything in return because of the money that you would owe him. And if a team were to, trade for him, you're going to have to pay him, $8 million next year as well. Even though we kind of went through and looked at when he's been on good teams, he's actually pitched pretty decently with some of those teams that he's been on when they've been good. When he's been on bad teams, he's pitched pretty porous at times. But it's also interesting in that the Guardians placed Shane Bieber on the IL with the forearm and elbow discomfort. That was a few days ago that they placed him on the IL. And, MRIs and things like that, we'll see what ultimately, presents itself with Shane Bieber. But that was going to be one of the if the Guardians were going to be sellers, that was going to be one of the biggest names on the market that was going to bring back a haul. And now you might take a starting pitcher just completely off the market. Teams are looking for those. I'm not saying that now Jordan Lyles becomes wanted, but there's a little more value when you take some guys off the market, and his last couple of outings he's looked pretty good. But also, as I've talked about with Scott Barlow, the extended period of time for him, what he's looked like, and of course the extended period of time for Jordan Lyles, what he's looked like. He'll get 2 more starts before we get to the trade deadline. If he has 2 more starts like he's had the last 2, then I think the Royals should absolutely be looking into trading him. And to me, it's sort of like whatever somebody gives you. I'm in a different mindset with Lyles than I am with Scott Barlow.
Yes, 100%. To put a bow on the Barlow side for me, I'm not worried about Scott Barlow. I am worried about the Royals. That is my super distilled version. And I am worried about Jordan Lyles, and I am also worried about the Royals.
Yeah. We'll take a timeout. We'll come back. We'll continue rolling. There's also the story from Steve Adams at MLB Trade Rumors that he put out yesterday afternoon, and this was before Carlos Hernandez last night striking out 3, about the Royals breakout reliever should draw trade interest, and talks about what Carlos Hernandez has done and the 4 years of team control. He'll be a Super 2, but next year's contract will be like $1 million. So he'll have 4 years of arbitration, but still has 4 years of team control. And what he could bring back with what he's been doing this year, and the fastball, the walk rate, the strikeout rate, the things that are, analytically lining up with some of the best relievers in baseball, what the Royals have, should they be looking to trade him. It's interesting because we talk about Duffy, we talk about Whit Merrifield, we talk about Scott Barlow, and I find myself on the opposite end of those conversations. I'll explain that. We're going to do a lot of Chiefs today. We'll hear from Felix Uzama, Rashee Rice, and also Wanya Morris. We'll hear from Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid. They talked yesterday, a number of clips from that I found to be interesting. We'll hear from them as the show continues rolling along. The running backs around the NFL are upset at their value from a monetary standpoint, and I think this is just adjusting to reality for running backs in the NFL. I can understand why they're upset, but I think it's pretty easy to look and understand why the NFL is valuing them the way that they are. We'll take a timeout. We'll come back. We'll continue rolling. 913-912-4810 is the text line. We're giving away Dude Perfect tickets today throughout the show. We continue rolling right after this on a Wednesday edition of The Zone at Sports Radio 810 WHB.
You're in the zone with Jason Anderson on Sports Radio 810 WHB.
If you can't wait any longer for football, good news, you don't have to.
podium today with practice number 1 in training camp for the rookies, some veterans as well. There was a question about Isaiah Pacheco. We talked about this at the top of the hour, top of the show, in that he received the first handoff today in camp. Wearing the yellow jersey, you can't be touched, but he's out there practicing at least. He's not just standing on the side with no helmet, watching and doing some cardio. He's actually, getting a handoff or two there at practice. 913-912-4810. We'll talk a ton of football with the Chiefs talking and hearing from Mahomes and Andy Reid earlier or yesterday, and then the whole running back conversation that's going on around the NFL. But real quick, in the trade deadline discussion, and Steve Adams at MLB Trade Rumors yesterday, again, even before Carlos Hernandez's outing last night, talking about he should be drawing trade interest. And look, I think the Royals should take the phone call from a team talking about anybody on their roster, even if it's Bobby Witt. Anybody there is not one player that is untouchable. That is like the Reds aren't listening to someone calling about Ellie De La Cruz. Okay, you pick up the phone, it's like, hey, we'll take Ellie De La Cruz. Cool. Can you give us your franchise? That's the deal. But Carlos Hernandez has been awesome, and he's got 4 years of team control left. Josh, there's the discussion about what they did with Witt. And Whit Merrifield and holding on to him too long, and Danny Duffy holding on to him too long, and Scott Barlow should have traded him last year when he had 2 years of team control. And it was a team that didn't look like they were going to be competing anytime soon. I find myself on the opposite side of Carlos Hernandez, because if we're talking about trying to maximize trade value, they did not maximize trade value in Scott Barlow, in him having a career year last year with still 2 years of team control and an understanding, Josh, that they weren't close to competing. If you've got 4 years of team control with Carlos Hernandez, who could very well step in and be the closer for the Royals if Scott Barlow's traded, or when Scott Barlow's traded, could very well be the guy next in line. And he's got 4 years of team control. In 2 years from now, so that would mean, 2025, he would have 25 and 26, I guess, left for control. No, he'd be through 2027. So let's go to 2026. And Carlos Hernandez is pitching with 1 more year of team control. Do we think the Royals will be close to competing? And if they are, well, then he offers value for you. And if they aren't, well, then you can trade him with still a year of team control. And if along the way he has struggled or he flames out, then maybe you missed the one opportunity when he was starting to have a breakout year in 2023. But I think the chance of Hernandez becoming something more special than what is just let's take a chance, a flyer on this guy that he could be on the cusp of being really good in the bullpen, so we'll give the Royals something. I'd rather this one, the Royals hold on to for a little bit and see if that's the case. And if it is, then maybe next year or the year after that, when he's really pitching and showing that there's a track record, you might be able to get something better back for him rather than what I think would be just let's take a flyer on that guy.
Yeah, and I get it because it was funny. I mean, I remember several points along the way being like, hey, this Carlos Hernandez guy has like an entire Rolodex of pitches. Maybe we should continue to monitor what he does. This is kind of exciting. The Royals actually have done the hard part on Carlos Hernandez at this point. They have honed him, made him a major leaguer, experimented a little bit, and now at this point you do see where he could be a really not just useful but potentially excellent piece in your bullpen. I love that. And also, if there is some team that is willing to acquire him for the price of someone who looks like a even potentially excellent bullpen piece, they should trade him immediately. Because there is no world for me. Like I mentioned Brad Keller earlier, and not that there was ever like this, hey, you got to flip Brad Keller for a top prospect right now, opportunity out there. But this is all too volatile for me. Like every thought process that ends with, well, if he's still looking like this in 2027, maybe the Royals will be contending, and maybe Carlos Hernandez at age 30 will be a real part of that. And I just don't. I don't know that I have time for that at this point.
I get it.
To me, it is a matter of, Are you going to get an offer for what teams think he's going to be, or are you going to get an offer of what he has done to this point? If it's the former, hey, bet on Carlos Hernandez and say, no, he's going to raise his value even more. We can move him in the offseason for twice the value. That's fine. That's totally on the table. This isn't the last year of control, panic trade kind of thing. He's not Aroldis Chapman. But if you do get an offer that you feel in any way good about in terms of adding real useful pieces to the rest of your relatively decrepit farm system at this point, you've got to do that.
Yeah, no, I totally get it. I just think if you get to the point to where, well, you've passed his real value, like for Scott Barlow, it's like, well, you passed his real value. Yeah, okay, well, then while he was with your team, he did offer some value. He did go out there and pitch effectively, so you didn't get nothing for him. You might get nothing in return. Whereas if Carlos Hernandez, you trade him right now and he turns out to be awesome, and you don't get nearly enough in return, well, you miss the value of while he was pitching for the Royals and doing some of those things and helping you win, and also, develop along the way a team that can win and knows how to win, and you got somebody back that's not actually going to do that for you in the future. If we're maximizing trade value, I think this would be more on the earlier side. Is it better to be too early or too late? I think you can argue either way. If you're too late, I guess at least you've got that guy with the big leagues that was pitching effectively. If it's too early, well, then that guy's pitching awesome for another team, and you got somebody that's not nearly as good as you would have got in return.
Here's why I would rather the Royals be on the too early side, generally speaking. Too late means you do get major league production from a guy, and whatever comes with that. Too late means you get minor league reinforcements. It's just not the most you could have gotten. The Royals don't get anything from major league performances at this point, and they won't for years, not in terms of actual achievement. They do benefit from getting, even if you're getting 70% of your value in a trade for to turn that into farm system real legit pieces. 70% of farm system improvement is worth more than 8 saves in the second half of 2023, and really, you projecting beyond that. If it's a doubling down on Carlos Hernandez being on a track to become more valuable, that's a little bit of a different part, a little different story. I'm okay with that. I can live there because I do like Carlos Hernandez. I do think this makes sense. I would still rather the Royals be too early than too late if they do play that game.
We'll take a timeout, and if they start talking in the break, we'll jump out of the break and we'll go to St. Joe, but we'll take a quick timeout, come back, and on the other side, we'll hear from FAU, Rasheed Rice, and Wanya Morris. More Zone next.
Want to see more of The Zone? Watch the show live on the Sports Radio 810 WHB Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and Twitch.
All right, with more than 20 years in the industry, Bickmer Electric, your locally owned and operated one-stop electrical contractor. Small jobs, big jobs. The Bickmer team knows how to...
Hey, like you said, offensive line. That's what we do. We in the trenches. I hit people for fun. So I'm very excited to get out here and work with these guys, man. Great talent out here, and just each day get better. That's all I'm worried about. Is getting better each day.
Wanya, what are some of the things that you did to get ready for this camp and go into the after mini camp and your first impression of that coming into
First of all, take care of my body. Make sure my body's right, hydrate right, eat right, and just do the miscellaneous things, like the small things that taking a certain step or keeping my knees bent, not getting up at the end of the play, just finishing, just small things like that that really just take you the extra mile.
Wanya, players around the league have always heard about Andy Reid's training camps, how tough they are. What had you heard prior to coming into the camp?
Oh, it's gonna be hell. That's what they told. They told me, but you got to take that to the chin because, like I said earlier, it's gonna be hard. And if it was easy, everybody would do it. So I'm just here to work, really.
It seems like they have a good system to kind of indoctrinate you a little bit as a time to build up to this.
Mm-hmm.
Do you feel like you're prepared for what will come when everyone gets here?
That's what this is for. Like you said, I'm just trying to get better every day. Like after this, probably gonna get some extra conditioning in because those vets, they've been doing this for a long time. So I gotta get used to it. I gotta get ready to go against them. So that's that.
How is the game different in the NFL level than in Oklahoma, Tennessee?
It's like every level it gets faster. I went in there with the ones a few times just to get a few reps, and it got faster. Like those guys are getting off the ball quick. I'm getting off on the right time, but I'm feeling like I'm late. So it's just you just got to be quick and in tune. Just everybody's faster, everybody's more precise, and just locked into technical things. It's like you're not just a talent can get you so far. You got to work hard too, So
Felix over there's a fellow rookie. What's your first impression of him?
Felix, my first impression of Felix is we don't like K-State, but
Damn.
what happened the year before that?
I got a sack with you.
No, you didn't.
Did I not?
No, you didn't.
They can all pull that up. They will see that. They will see that.
It's okay. It's okay.
Did I not get a sack?
'Cause your face is in the ground too.
But
Okay. My first impression of Felix, though, that's my guy. We go to work every day. That's my guy. We work every day. Competing is what we do, and just being able to have that friendship that we have, it just fuels us more, It fuels us more to just go harder in practice. And he get me, I get him. It's a constant fight. You win some, lose some.
You talk about that friendship. You talk about that friendship when you're in Felix. Guys, rookies, as they come in the draft class, they typically lean on each other. As Daisy and Mommy Camp, is he a guy that you'll be leaning on?
Yeah, for sure. And I'm pretty sure they'll be leaning on me, because like I said, it get hard, but we all going through the same thing, first time together. And that's when we come together, talk it up, chop it up, pick each other up, because we brothers now, we family. This is Chiefs Kingdom. We part of that now. So we're going to do everything we can to uphold that.
One real quick question. Are you a trash talker?
hell yeah. I'll answer that question.
You heard him. I can, but I'm a fun trash talker though. I'm not gonna be disrespectful, but I'm a fun trash talker. I'm gonna make sure you work. I'm gonna make sure you compete because that's what I like to do. Competing is the best thing you can do. It's the epitome of everything. Like competing, it's fun. Like that's how we play this sport. It's a team sport. You gotta compete with your brothers, compete against other people, and just get better, experience the talent. So that's what it is.
Thanks, guys. Thanks, Juan.
Thank you.
All right, there's Wanya Morris. We'll hear from apparently Felix and Udike Uzama as we heard from him right there as they were talking some smack back and forth. That was great. You know what? Let's hear from Felix.
I mean, it was, as expected. Coach, they always tell us to come, be in shape. Our wide receivers, this is like a track team as far as, our wide receiver group. So we come knowing that we got to be expected to run as long as till the game is over, till practice is over.
Was there anything about today that surprised you? That you were like, oh wow, this is a little more simple than I thought, or something of that nature?
A little bit. I mean, we were a little, short as far as the receiver group had about 5 receivers. So, I mean, as expected, we were going to get tired, and they kind of helped in any way just to kind of let us get a little break in between certain reps and stuff like that.
Andy's camp is known to be pretty hard. What did you do in preparation as far as conditioning goes?
During the summer or a little break, I was meeting up with Shane Bouchel, every day, every morning, just running routes and kind of basically putting the ball at each hash so we could basically work our own kind of 2-minute drill so I could be in shape and prepare for this.
What are some of the things Shane taught you during that time, maybe specific to what to expect here?
Not necessarily what to expect, but he just kind of taught me about like what's going through Pat's mind as far as me running a play and what he's looking at as far as, you know, how the defense is moving and where he would want me to be on certain plays.
Was that in Texas?
Yes.
Okay, Dallas area?
Sometimes we were in Arlington, sometimes we were at SMU at our old college.
Rasheed, we got to see what you have for breakfast out there. Did Coach Reed say anything? Anybody say anything to you?
Nah. I mean, like I said, he's expecting us to be able to run as long as we can, and I told them, like, to be honest with y'all, I don't mind puking. That just means I'm working as hard as I can so that I won't puke no more and be ready for the game.
When was the last time you had a practice like that where you may have left more on the field than you wanted?
Probably fall camp in college.
And what was that feeling like to go through that?
A lot easier than this, but I mean, when that happened, I mean, we got to practice in the indoor in college. Out here, you know, you already know.
What was it like having Pacheco out there supporting you guys for a 7-on-7 team?
It was great just because during OTAs, I know that he wanted to be out there a lot. So him just running down that hill and being ready to just do the warm-up, like he moving as fast as he can just in the warm-up. And we like, you know, we could just tell he's excited to be on the field right now.
What's your adjustment been like? You know, obviously moved to a new city. You're all settled in Kansas City. You're not going to be back there for like a month. Have you gotten all that stuff in order?
Yeah, I'm all settled. Everything's good.
Yeah. What have you liked about the town so far? I know you've been home in Texas quite a bit.
It's a little bit like Fort Worth, Texas, to be honest. Missouri, I mean, it's not too different from Texas, and you know, I went to high school in Fort Worth, so I mean, it's nothing to adjust.
You had local fun here with Felix. You've been nice to the other rookies.
Yeah, you know, he invited me to his house. He got a nice little sky view, but we're not gonna talk about that too much.
Keep that here.
Rasheed, just to be clear, do you feel like you're prepared for this camp? I mean, obviously it's happened today in the first one, and it's going to get tougher. Do you feel like you're prepared just physically for this whole thing?
Yeah, 100%. I lost a lot of weight during the off time we had, just so I could come back and be lighter on my feet. And honestly, out here it's just me trying to hydrate as much as I can, just because I know I was going to sweat like a lot doing all the running I was doing today.
So you did lose some weight between then and now?
Yeah, I did.
Players often talk about Coach Reed's playbook. How you know, have you dove into that a lot yet?
Yeah. I mean, like I said, meeting with Shane, you know, during that little break, he gave me kind of a head start just because he's a QB and he can't really take a break from the playbook. And then like every day, I'm gonna be meeting with Shane in his dorm just to go over plays before the next day. So I'll be prepared.
When you say you lost a lot of weight, is it like more than 10 pounds? Like what is kind of the range that you want to be at for this?
Yeah, so OTAs, I was about like 212 to 215, and now I'm about I'm 200 pounds right now, so I lost a good amount.
Okay, thanks, Rasheed.
Appreciate it.
Interesting there. Rasheed Rice was sitting at 212, 215 pounds, like you said, at OTAs. Now is at 200. His playing weight, I think, at last year at SMU was like 203, 205. So interesting the weight that he put on. Here's Felix.
Amongst the rookies, you know, what's it been like just you all experiencing that NFL together for the first time?
It felt good. During the OTAs and minicamp, we were already together. Like after practice, we all hung out with each other and stuff like that, just so we can bond more and stuff like that. And I know Ye from a long time, playing against him too. So I had a good camaraderie with him already. So, but yeah. And then also Pac, he a teammate of mine too. So we already basically bonded already from that. So.
Felix, how hard was today?
Today, I'm not gonna lie, today was tough. Obviously, almost every first fall camp, even in college, every first fall camp is always gonna be tough. You already got to get, you have to get in shape, football shape, because all the training and stuff like that is not the same as football shape. So today was tough. Hopefully these next 3 days are gonna be easier, and then when the vets come, we'll already be in shape and ready to go.
You were coming off a hand injury during OTAs. How are you feeling now? Do you feel 100%? Anything you're starting to get comfortable with?
Yeah, my hands 100%. Everything's fine.
Was that did you know that in the Sugar Bowl? Is that right?
I heard that in the Big 12 championship. Last play of the game. Literally. No, last defensive play of the game. Yeah.
In the Big 12 championship.
Championship. I didn't know it was torn until I went start training, and then they told me to get surgery right after pro day. So.
How tough was it to be limited in OTAs?
It was very tough, especially they draft me to play right away, draft me for first round. So all the coaches expect a lot out of me. So it was just very hard and very tough that I can't do exactly what they want me to do right away. So it was just a lot of mental reps, a lot of mental just learning the playbook, a lot of knowing their technique and stuff like that. Even though I can't do it on the field, it's just I got to do it mentally.
How do you keep your mind right? Because like you said, they want you to do so much right away, and sometimes you felt like maybe you're just not there yet. How do you just keep yourself to keep going and know that you'll get there at some point?
Just like personally, I lean back on my teammates, especially the rookies. They all know that what my position is. They already know like how big it is, especially I'm a hometown kid. Especially like everybody's leaning on me and all this stuff. So they always try to preach me up because they know it's very different in my shoes, especially being a first round draft pick in your hometown. They know it's very different. So they always try to keep my head up, try to keep me motivated to keep going, and try to keep me just basically tell me every day that what the goal is, so that I'm eventually going to get better. I'm eventually going to be hopefully playing. So.
You talked a minute ago about the expectations the coaches have.
Yep.
What are your expectations for yourself as a rookie?
My expectation is just bottom line, just get through the playbook, just learn from the vets, because obviously the vets, they won a Super Bowl championship. So I even said it before in another press conference. They already been in this position. So I need to learn as much as I can from the vets and as much as I can just from my coaches, so I can be able to help the team out.
Felix, you mentioned learning a playbook. Spag's defense is known to be pretty tough.
Yeah.
How far along are you in the playbook, and how much have you actually learned so far?
I don't know how to really answer that question. I'm pretty decent with the playbook. Obviously, I'm new. I'm just learning the playbook now, so I just need to keep going in the playbook, learning every day, day by day. Ask the coaches, ask the vets, just like pointers and stuff like that, and just honestly focus on. So we got quite a bit of time, just especially this whole camp. So hopefully by then I'll have this playbook down. So.
Felix, you mentioned getting drafted in your hometown. How has your life in Kansas City changed since you get drafted in your hometown?
It's just I had to move differently. Obviously I can't really move the same. I can't really go to grocery stores because everybody thinks I'm a celebrity now. So it's very different, I will say. But at the same time, it comes with a price. Being drafted to hometown, all that stuff. So I knew if me doing that's going to come. So I just had to move differently.
Have your buddies at home from high school and your buddies at K-State kind of kept your ego in check?
They know I'm not the high ego type guy. They know that they know how humble I am. I never even like try to rub it in their face about where my position is at the same time, because at the end of the day, God gave me this gift, and God gave everybody a different journey. So I never ever want to even rub it in their face. I hang out with them almost all the time. Like this past Saturday, I hang out with my high school friends. Just hanging out with them before I go to training camps, because I won't see them for a minute because they're going to go back to college. So.
Let's go last four. Go ahead, Nick.
Felix, I believe before you said you'd come up here to camp as a kid. What was that first day like for you being on the other side of the fence?
It's just I had to soak it all in at first, because I remember just sitting at the stands. I believe it was 2013. Sitting at the stands, just watching all the guys, and then me actually walking on this grass pad just to come down to campus. It's a dream come true, but at the same time, although I'm in this dream, I have to show for it. So.
Blair.
I just wanted to ask you to set the record straight. Who got the better of the Oklahoma matchups with you and Wanye?
Wanye, I'm not gonna lie. I didn't go against Wanye or last year, but the year before that, I did get a sack on him. Even if you can check my record and stuff like that, you'll see. Like he knows it too, because I was always rubbing in his face all the time. But no, he's a great player. He trash talk, but at the same time, he keeps it like cordial, because there's one time like literally my whole chain was out. He's like, hey, check your chain before one of my teammates starts snatching it. So like he's respectful too. So I appreciate him for that.
Go ahead, PJ.
Talk about being a local celebrity from here and everything. How important is it just for you to keep that tight circle that you're gonna and people are gonna invade that? And
It's a lot. There's a lot of people that obviously haven't came in my life for a long time. Already try to like, hey, this and that, try to talk me up, stuff like that. So I always like to keep it people that have been with me all the way throughout the whole process, like close friends and all that stuff. So I always keep that circle small, so I don't have any distractions outside.
You got a long way to go for the first game, right?
Yep.
But you've already come a long way since now you got drafted.
Yep.
You asked about your expectations before. Have they changed at all now that you've gotten to be a part of this for a while? Do you feel more confident, or is it a bigger challenge than you thought?
It's still, at the same time, I still got to impress the coaches. It's still the same thing day by day. is impress the coaches. Because at the end of the day, if you don't impress the coach, you're not going to get on the field. So obviously, learning that playbook, learning my technique, doing everything that is possible for the coaches to be for the coaches to be impressed by what I do on the field will eventually, hopefully, have me on the field.
Last one, Nick.
You mentioned before, obviously, about playing for your hometown team. And I guess my question is, from the draft to the start of camp, was there a moment where somebody from Kansas City said something to you that was either inspiring or sort of moving, given where you are in your career right now?
Say that one more time. I'm so sorry. I lost train of thought. My fault. Say that one more time.
Was there anybody from Kansas City that you know, or maybe it was a stranger or an acquaintance that said something to you about playing for the Chiefs that you're gonna have to take with you, or at least get inspired to or motivated?
Really, I remember I was on the float with Dante Hall. Basically, he said it really simple. Just honestly, you play football for a reason. Just go out and play. There's no thought into it. There's no overthinking it. Just go out there and play. Because at the end of the day, this is just a game. So once you just play, literally just a game like how I did in Little League, and just play, do everything right, do everything possible, eat right, do everything, work on your body, everything will just play to play. So that's basically the most simplest thing he said, and I'll take that forever.
How meaningful was it to have someone that you probably watched growing up?
It was very meaningful, especially just literally the day, like 2 days before I just seen him. I was just like, it's very meaningful, especially the position he was, because he was that guy on the Chiefs. So it was just very meaningful just to be next to him and just him giving me some advice.
Thanks, everybody. Thanks,
Thank you.
All right, there's Felix and Udike Uzama, Rashee Rice, and Wanya Morris there at training camp. Day number 1 in training camp practices for the rookies, for the Chiefs, the veterans showing up on the 22nd, and then practice for the entire squad after that. We'll take a timeout. We'll come back. We'll talk about things we heard there, what the takeaways were from those 3 rookies that the Chiefs drafted in the first 3 rounds of the NFL draft. We'll take a timeout. We'll come back. More Zone next.
What's up, Kansas City? This is Jack Johnson. You work hard to make sure your family has everything they need. Life insurance from American Family can help financially protect your loved ones by replacing a portion of your income if you were to pass away. That means your family will have the help they need to maintain their quality of life and pursue their dreams. Get the peace of mind you deserve by protecting what matters most. Contact Kim Hauer and her team today at 913-649-2002. That's 913-
until 2 o'clock. We'll talk with Jeff Montgomery at 1 o'clock. Valley Sports Royals Hall of Famer. Get his thoughts on this Royals team. And haven't talked in a couple of weeks with Monty since he was off last week for the All-Star break. Hopefully he had a good one in an All-Star break. I had a perfectly fine All-Star break and hanging out in Tahoe. All good. The Chiefs are hanging out in St. Joe. And, Josh, the theme of those three guys was kind of what you'd expect. Hey, first day of training camp, first day of fall camp, and Andy Reid. Hey, what'd you think? Wanya Morris was told it's going to be hell, but you got to take that to the chin, as he said. And then Felix and Udike Uzama says, I'm not going to lie, today was tough. And then Rashee Rice said, so exactly what would be expected of an Andy Reid camp for rookies showing up. And Andy Reid, he was asked after the OTAs and minicamp or whatever, the message to the team was, show up in shape. And, hey, they got that message today if they didn't get it then.
Yeah, and it's interesting. My biggest real news takeaway from all of that, I think, is Rashee Rice saying he's down 15 pounds, which what sounds like on purpose. It wasn't, I sat around and my muscles started deteriorating. He said something about him working over the course of this since the draft and the combine and OTAs and all of that. That's interesting because I assume that that's at the behest of the Chiefs, that he didn't just decide that he was going to try to cut some weight. That would be certainly my hunch there, which also makes me think that I saw the tweets and people kind of getting nervous about, that's not a great start for Rashee Rice. He didn't sound exhausted or dejected or whatever. Sometimes you work out in the heat outside and run a lot and you barf. He didn't seem too worried about it. So
I think the bigger concern would have been OTAs in that, last year his playing weight was about 203. At the combine, he weighed in at 204. And he said OTAs, he was 212 to 215.
Yeah, that's a good point.
That clearly wasn't muscle that he put on.
That's the
outlier. And remember,
we
heard Andy Reid talk about Rashee Rice and maybe conditioning. I can't remember how he put it, but you and I both had the same sort of takeaway, or we heard the same thing of there's some questions about Rashee Rice and how good a shape he's in, which is a little concerning. But hey, we'll see what happens in training camp and everything, and who knows? You get used to being a professional. And so if he was at OTAs at 212 to 215. That's about 8 to 11 pounds heavier than he was at the combine, and now he says he's back down to 200, which was his playing weight, which was what he weighed in at the combine. So maybe that OTAs was Rashee Rice not taking too seriously the conditioning part of getting ready for the NFL and sort of letting his body go, and now it's, okay, shoot, I need to get my bleep together because it's go time in the NFL, and if I'm going to do anything, I need to be in shape. Shows up in better shape weight-wise, but then also the conditioning is going to have to be a part of it because he throws up, but at least he's working hard and pushing his body to the max of throwing up, which is, whichever way you want to view it. Either he's not in good enough shape, so he's throwing up, or he's busting his butt on every rep to the point to where you feel like you're going to throw up, but then he keeps pushing through that and eventually – lets his breakfast out onto the field. So, yeah, there's a few ways to view it, and we'll just have to see what Rashee Rice looks like. But I don't know which way to take this. Certainly feels like he was out of shape when he showed up to OTAs with Andy Reid's comments and him saying that he was 212 to 215, and now he's around 200.
I have that Andy Reid quote here. I don't have the audio, but I have the transcript of it. This was May 8th. And so Andy Reid was asked what he's seen from Rashee Rice. And so, again, the transcript that I have here says, strong, kind of the things we saw on tape. He's got to make sure he gets his running in. That position, we run them like crazy, so he's got to get that part of him taken care of. But you can see the strength in his route running and his ability to work in space. He's got good hands. So he's got to get his running in. That I had completely forgotten about that little tidbit. And sounds like he's gotten his running in. That is an interesting through line there from May 8th.
I also wonder, and we'll see if this is something in his career, but, I mean, he's, 22 years old, and he goes from the combine in February to May, he's put on, 12 pounds or so, to then July, he's dropped that weight. Is he somebody that it's going to be that easy for him to put on weight and bad weight? And is that something that he's going to have to just simply watch? And if that's the case, then that's more of it a commitment and a discipline to being a professional, of understanding this is your body. This is how you have to go about it. Wanya Morris said one of the things that he learned and talked about and advice is take care of your body. Your body, your body. That is your tool to being a professional athlete in the NFL. You can do all these little techniques or whatever, but Tyreek Hill never stopped running. He was the Energizer Bunny, running up and down the field, and people have talked about, never seen anything like it. Rashee Rice doesn't have to be Tyreek Hill because there isn't a Tyreek Hill that exists that just runs as much as he does. It is unbelievable. It's amazing, and that's a gift. That's a skill to be able to do that. You're just built differently. You don't have to be that guy. But Andy Reid is right in how much we run these guys. You're going to be running reps and reps and reps and reps and reps. You're going to do that in practice. You're going to do that in training camp. So when it comes time for the regular season, you damn sure better have your body ready to go because we will make sure it is ready to go. So you need to show up in shape and ready to be there from the beginning. You can never know. Today and throwing up or whatever, and if he was a little out of shape today, that doesn't bother me because I think as a rookie, you never know how good of a shape is the expectation. He knows now. So next year when like Sky Moore and these guys, when they show up, they've been through the training camp. They know firsthand what the expectation, what the conditioning is going to be like, the running. Rashee Rice doesn't. None of these guys do, and they found out today.
Yeah, I think that's the right space to be in, which is that maybe he let his conditioning go for a little while, and maybe he showed up today still a little bit surprised, even with what the veterans had been saying about what it was going to be like. But ultimately, to react strongly to him throwing up during practice today, I think would be to overreact. If he was 15 pounds overweight now, and Andy Reid says next time we talk to him, we're not going to see Rashee out there till he gets his conditioning in, that's a different thing too. I also like to try to give the benefit of the doubt in terms of, and you're not doing this, but I'm previewing what Twitter's about to be doing, giving people the benefit of the doubt where when a little bit of excusable ignorance is not the same thing as malice, right? Yeah. Rashee Rice has most likely been the best athlete within a square mile of himself his entire life up to this point. And today he showed up to Chiefs training camp at St. Joe, and Andy Reid ran him so hard he threw up on the field. Like that, I hope and my hunch is to believe that this is a learning moment and a data point and a part of Rashee Rice's welcome to the NFL story, not the beginning of a years-long battle, Rashee Rice versus 15 pounds of fat.
Yeah, I think it's not an overreaction. I agree with you on that just simple youthful ignorance is not malice or laziness. So I don't think that's the case. But I do think it's a note. I think it's something to put on the side as in like, okay, he was up to 212 to 215 at OTAs. He played at 200. He weighed 204 at the combine. He got up to what he thought was 212 to 215. Then at training camp, he got back down to 200, threw up on the first day of practice, which, again, I do think there's a level of, okay, he pushed his body to throwing up. Yep. So it's not a lack of work ethic in practice. Yep. He could have stopped and be like, I need a break. Now, there is the, tweets that he did take or go back into inside the training facility or whatever, left practice for like 20 minutes, came back out, then threw up. Maybe there was a conditioning issue. But he knows now. If this is something that continues, it's a nugget. It's a note on the side that might just be hey, remember Rashee Rice got his welcome to the NFL rookie moment at Andy Reid's training camp 4 years ago, and then blah, 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 got his bleep together. So we'll see about this guy and this guy there. But could also be hey, man, remember, there were signs early. There were those early signs about what we're watching. I hope that's not the case. I am going to lean towards it's youthful ignorance because I think a lot of people have that because there's no possible way you can know for a fact what the conditioning expectation level is for an Andy Reid or any training camp on the first day unless you've done it before. Yep. You can be told, you can say you need to get to this time. These are the half killers or whatever they're calling them. This is the time you have to run it in or you're going to keep running until you get it in that time so you can go and practice and do all that conditioning. But are you going to go through an actual conditioning or a practice on your own at home to where you're going through the drills at full speed, you're going through the reps at full speed, then you're also doing the conditioning, then you're coming over here and you're going straight to this, and then maybe there's a little bit of water there, but the reps are in and it's all about an Andy Reid camp of you are keeping the trains moving on time. Are you practicing like that? Probably not because you don't know.
I do wish that today would have been an Andy Reid day, and I think we'll have plenty of them, and he'll get asked about it. But I think to some extent, Andy Reid will just straight up tell us what he thinks about Rashee Rice from a conditioning standpoint. Yeah. It won't be he got fat and needs to pick it up, or it won't be he's young and he barfed. But I think that the tone of Andy Reid, he was in a good mood yesterday, downright chipper. And I think he's really happy to be back in St. Joe for training camp, man. That dude is built for it. But I think we will hear, whenever he gets asked about it, we're either going to hear him go, yeah, look, I don't mind when a rookie gets up here and barfs and keeps running. It's welcome to St. Joe. Or it's going to be, yeah, he really needs to keep working on getting his running in and make sure he can contribute.
Yeah.
And then the next question, and then we'll go, whoa, hey, yeah. I think that's what we're going to get from him.
I mean, the heat and Rashee Rice even mentioned, he said, look, we practice inside at SMU in fall camp. We have an indoor practice facility. Okay, well, it's different now. Yep. It's the NFL. It's not college football. It's the NFL, and it's widely viewed as one of the tougher training camps. Now, old school football players would view this training camp a little bit different in saying that it's tough or not. We talked with Jerome Bettis, and he had discussed that. But he also viewed it from but it's good, though. It's good for the game. This is where it should be. It shouldn't be the way that it used to be and everything. It's good that it's like this. But it's still whatever Andy Reid does in terms of these are the reps we're going to get in. You'd better be ready to go. The Chiefs are successful. If that's from the coaching to the culture to the players to the training, whatever it is, in the Chiefs' mind, they believe what happens at training camp directly results into success during the season. And as long as they believe it, then that's the main thing that matters, is if they feel like, no, I'm more conditioned than this guy. So in my mind, I've got it between the ears and I'm stronger because they didn't go through what we went through in training camp. Right. If you believe that, you kind of already have an advantage between the ears in the fourth quarter, even though that may not be the case.
And I mean, even going back to like the bus perspective, which is kind of a funny little way to weave that together. There have been more brutal NFL practices throughout the history of it, but I don't know that there have been more intense ones, or at least intensive ones, if that makes sense. Because the amount of things that it seems like they're always doing in a Chiefs training camp, it is not just about maximizing the physical stress. It is also maximizing the mental stress. And to do those two things in concert in the middle of the hottest weeks you're going to find in St. Joseph, Missouri, where you live in a dorm for a month, like that is going to put you through it. I generally really shy away from like the football and war comparisons because I don't think it does either of them any favors. But if you want to compare it to some sort of boot camp, I think that is effectively what they do. It's part of the reason Andy Reid still likes going to St. Joe. We're going to get out here, and this is just football sprints for a month in this case this year. It is going to put especially the rookies through every step of it.
It's also, you are being judged and analyzed in every aspect of what you bring to the table and how the Chiefs can rely on you. Breeland Speaks showed up out of shape, his second year in the NFL?
That's right, yeah.
And then the next year he showed up in better shape, but he ended up getting cut.
Yep.
And I think he had already made his bed. By second year in the NFL, you showed up out of shape. And it's like, okay, how serious are you going to take this? What as a professional, what's the level of expectation, and can we rely on you? And I think every part of these players during rookie minicamp and OTAs and then training camp is being analyzed of what's this guy going to bring to the table. Okay, well, this guy showed up out of shape. And I'm not saying this for Rashee Rice. I'm just saying it in general because he clearly showed up in shape. He's down to 200, 200 pounds or so. So whatever he did from OTAs to now, he lost the weight. He got in shape. He's good to go. But if he were to show up at training camp like at 215 and you go, okay, so away from the facilities, this guy isn't doing what we need him to do. So away from the facilities, is he studying the playbook? Is he getting ready for the game plan? Is he doing the extra things that need to happen to be a professional? Like, you can practice all you want and practice as hard as you want, but you're winning games by things you do away from the facilities. I mean, by studying film. I mean, Patrick Mahomes in the quarterback series talked about all of the games he watches the week heading into that game, the opponent they're playing, and all of the games they are watching and the film he's studying at home. That's not at the facilities, on the field, going through those things. Marcus Mariota with his wife, going through the play. She says the plays, he repeats them. Kirk Cousins recording himself saying the plays and then listening to them back so that they are driven into his head more and more. That's away from the facilities and the time you're putting in. If this guy's showing up out of shape, or this guy's doing this, or this guy's running the wrong route, can we rely on him because we don't feel like he's doing the things away from the field? That matters just as much as you went out there and you caught the ball that was thrown to you.
Yeah, so. It is about building those habits in a lot of ways. Again, that's something else that Andy Reid mentioned yesterday that we might hear from him later. This idea, especially of Mahomes and Kelsey setting that standard once they're also, I mean, Mahomes is up there. We heard from him yesterday too. But once the veterans are there to continue to set that standard, I bet Andy Reid does very, very, very little individual, hey, pick it up, kind of throughout the course of camp, because you have, of course, your assistant coaches, your position coaches, your quality control coaches, and the veterans who have been through it before and who know what it takes to end up in that headspace and in that physical space, which is a whole bleeping lot of work.
Yeah, I doubt he has to do it early in camp, but there are probably some days when you just feel like I'm gonna have to ride him here because this is I can tell everybody's dragging ass out here.
That's it, and that becomes an Andy Reid day. You know what I mean?
Yes,
like
absolutely.
He is not doing that 25 times. He's probably doing it 3, 4, or 5, and those days I bet those dudes remember.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll take a timeout. We'll come back. We'll hear from Andy Reid. We'll hear from Patrick Mahomes, some of the things they talked about, that Andy Reid talking about Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce, the guys who can lead, the guys where, you've had this culture in place and they have come up in that culture, and there's a level of expectation. So when your best guys are your best guys, when your best players are your best leaders, it just trickles down from there. We'll take a timeout. We'll come back, continue rolling. More Zone right after this on a Wednesday edition at Sports Radio 810 WHB.
Take the show with you by listening live on 810WHB.com, in the 810 mobile app, or by subscribing to The Zone wherever you get your podcasts.
Come to Zarda Barbecue today and pick up a tender, juicy hickory smoked pulled pork sandwich topped with our tangy Southern-style coleslaw, drizzled with our sweet Carolina mustard sauce for only $6.99. Zarda Barbecue, come get some.
Tune in tonight at 8 o'clock as former Jayhawk legends take the court for Mass Street against We Are D3 in the first round of the basketball tournament. The Kansas team includes Keith Langford, Thomas Robinson, Tyshawn Taylor, Mitch Lightfoot, Mario Chalmers, Brandon Rush, and Kevin Young. You can hear all of the action live right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB tonight at 8 o'clock. Mass Street versus We Are D3 in the basketball tournament tonight at 8 o'clock on Sports Radio 810 WHB.
I don't want to go to bed at night dreading waking up in the morning knowing that I'm going to feel like a rusty lawn chair getting out of bed and getting opened up and not being able to really move for a couple hours really throughout the day.
For former college and pro football player Bobby Carpenter and those dealing with daily aches and pains, QC Kinetics regenerative pain treatments are a game changer, providing long-lasting relief.
Go into a specific joint, a specific region, and then help promote that healing process using your own body's mechanisms to heal. I mean, that's been something that's pretty powerful, and there's no surgery, there's no downtime.
QC Kinetics natural treatments help the body heal and restore itself. No more rusty lawn chair.
It's no surprise to see people being willing to try this first, especially when it has such great results.
Pain relief the natural way. QC Kinetics. Call today for your complimentary consultation. Find out if you're a good candidate for treatment.
Call QC Kinetics, 816-412-6299. That's 816-412-6299. 816-412-6299.
It's the first day of the first grade, and she found a new best friend. It's a laid-back Sunday afternoon you wish would never end.
The homemade taste of Bluebell and good friends gathered round. The good old days are being made right now.
There's no hiding from Bluebell Monster Cookie Dough Ice Cream. Creamy vanilla ice cream, peanut butter monster cookie dough, brown sugar, candy-coated chocolate, and dark chocolate flavored chunks. A taste so good, you'll need a bigger bowl.
The good old days are being made right now.
The good old days are being made right now.
Look for Bluebell Ice Cream at select Walmart Supercenters and select neighborhood markets.
Get a cool deal on a hot new Kia at Robert Brogdon's Olathe Kia. With their 90-day money-back guarantee, you can drive the 2023 Telluride, Sorento, even the Nero EV worry-free. Find what you need and buy with confidence at Brogdon. Visit OlatheKia.com.
Easton Roofing. For free inspections and suggestions built on integrity, call Easton Roofing, 913-257-5426. Easton Roofing. Integrity matters.
Golfers tee it up at Edwin Watts Golf Shops. Edwin Watts offers the best selection in the latest in golf equipment, apparel, and accessories. Swing by Edwin Watts in Overland Park today to elevate your game.
Right now at Wendy's, when you buy either Dave's Single, Spicy Chicken Sandwich, Medium Frosty, or 10-piece nuggets, you can get another for just $1. Your dollar never tasted so good. So it's obvious what everyone will get, right?
Definitely nugs
Spicy
and
chicken
a Frosty.
sandwich,
Dave's single and a Frosty,
Frosty
for me.
and a Frosty. Okay, who said Frosty and a Frosty? Pick your obvious choice. Choose wisely. Choose Wendy's, buy one, get one for $1.
Limited time only. Price of participation may vary. U.S. Wendy's, valid for item of equal or lesser value. Cannot be combined in a combo or any other offer.
On the battlefield, there's a saying America's military men and women live by. Never leave a fallen warrior behind. Ever. Off the battlefield, Wounded Warrior Project operates with the same goal. Wounded Warrior Project was created to help our men and women returning home with the scars of war, whether those scars are physical or mental. Wounded Warrior Project. We never leave a fallen warrior behind. Ever. Learn more about what we do at woundedwarriorproject.org.
The Zone with Jason Anderson.
Not much of a break yesterday, Herbie, unless you're counting lunch. I had lunch. That was good, right?
Weekdays from 10 to 2 on Sports Radio 810 WHB.
All right, welcome back into the Zone right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. Jason Anderson with you, Josh Brisco, Dylan Michaels. We head up until 2 o'clock. We'll talk with Jeff Montgomery at 1 o'clock, Royals Hall of Famer. Bally Sports, Royals Game 3 of the series against the Detroit Tigers coming up tonight at 7:10. The rookies and quarterbacks reported to camp yesterday. You heard Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB yesterday. Let's hear from those two individuals. Let's hear from Andy Reid. In fact, we were talking about the Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce leadership that goes along with training camp. Let's hear Andy Reid talk about those two guys who set the tone for everybody else at training camp.
Yeah, I love their attitude towards it. That's infectious. As there are a number of guys that do that, but those two are, they've got eyes on them. And the way they go about their business is they want to be great every day and do the best they can do every day. And they understand that through the tough parts of this, that it pays off for you down the road.
I love telling the story about, when I first got a chance to be around the Chiefs and training camp, and it was, I believe, the 2007, whenever the Hard Knocks was there. When Hard Knocks was around the Chiefs, and they were still in River Falls, Wisconsin at that time, and got to cover it for 810. And the story I tell a lot is, not around NFL practices that often. And Tony Gonzalez is out there practicing, and practice gets over, and Tony Gonzalez is staying after and working the jugs machine and doing the different drills of facing the right, running, and then looking and catching it, facing the left, running in place, and then catching it, turning around and then, turning around towards the jugs machine and catching it, things like that, trying the one-handed catches, working the sideline, doing all of these different drills on the jugs machine. And the first thing that popped in my head as, being youthful ignorance as a young Cub reporter, junior reporter, was, that guy's Tony Gonzalez. Yes, he doesn't have to stay after and do that work. And then quickly realized that, that's why he's Tony Gonzalez, is because everybody else is going inside. All these receivers and tight ends that aren't named Tony Gonzalez have already left the field. And there's one guy out there that's working the jugs machine early in training camp, and it's Tony Gonzalez. And that's always stuck with me as that's how you get there, because he had the drop issues his rookie year. He was dropping the ball all the time. Anybody that's watched Tony Gonzalez from like the year 2000 on, or Tony Gonzalez in his prime, that guy had Velcro hands. He didn't drop anything. But when he got to the NFL, he did. And then he worked and worked and worked and worked and worked overtime and worked extra and outworked other people. And he's the greatest tight end that's ever lived, or one of. And Kelsey's certainly there as well. And Kelsey doesn't drop anything. And so that always stuck with me. And when he talks about the way they approach Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce, those guys who are at the top of their game, they're at the top of their game because they're incredibly talented, they're gifted, but they also work their ass off. There are a lot of guys that aren't as talented that work really hard to try to just make it in the NFL, and that's commendable. But then when you have something special, you combine that incredible talent, the ability on the field, and then the work ethic to continue to put in all of that extra work to be better and better because that competitive drive is there. And the Chiefs are lucky that they've got a quarterback and one of the best playmaking pass catchers in the NFL that go the extra mile, extra route, whatever it is, to become great. And that trickles down to Sky Moore. It trickles down to Kadarius Toney and hopefully Rashee Rice and on and on.
Yeah, and I don't know what your experience was if you ever saw this happen, but I have to imagine if you're the third or fourth tight end in training camp and then you head in and you realize that Tony Gonzalez is still out there on the jugs machine, I imagine you might ask if you could maybe you could tap in after practice the next time out, because that is the standard being set by the guy who, quote unquote, needs it the least. And I mean, and that's aside from your point that I think is absolutely true, where you have this is way too broad of an assessment, but I think the NFL is largely probably full of guys with good talent and incredible work ethic, guys with incredible work ethic and great talent, and incredible work ethic meeting incredible talent. Like you can't, there's nobody who just has some talent and shows up for the required hours. That person doesn't exist in the NFL. Everyone has at least some of each of those to get to this point. The Jamarcus Russell stories are so rare that we remember them with perfect clarity.
That's right.
And to set that standard even higher while being one of the uber talented guys, in your story as a Cub reporter, Tony Gonzalez, now Travis Kelce doing it in St. Joe, that has to be such a blessing to your culture as a head coach.
And you see it last year when Frank Clark and George Karlaftis stayed late.
Yes,
absolutely. After practice, and they're working on their hand fighting, they're working on different moves, and you're like, that's awesome because Karlaftis wants to do that. Also, Frank Clark wanted to pass that along. And then you see the photos of Karlaftis and Tamba Hali, doing some jiu-jitsu in the offseason to work on that part of it. So you've got Karlaftis trying to draw inspiration and techniques and learning from Tamba Hali, one of the Chiefs' greats at defensive end, and Frank Clark, one of the best playoff edge rushers that we've ever seen, and who was damn, fine in his own right in his career. And he's there just trying to soak up as much as he can to get better. And I think that's what started to pay off for him at the end of the last season, is when those things start to click of, okay, so I'm doing this drill, and that's how it's relating here because this extra step cost me that sack. Or this false step here, I was a little too late, and I got the pressure, but I didn't get the sack. And those are things that, okay, the drills are translating to, actual play, in the NFL. And so, those are things that you want to see, and you want to see your best players doing that. Let's hear from Andy Reid, who talking about the young players at training camp, saying that training camp, as this was yesterday, so talking about at that point tomorrow, but today, said that training camp is really when things start to set in for the younger players.
I think they'll feel that a little bit more now. I think you're a little bit guarded just by the rules for your OTAs and that, but it's a good foundation to build with. But this year will this tests you both mentally and physically when you have to go through a training camp, and then they've got to deal with you guys every day, and it's just different. There are a lot of eyes on them, all the fans that are out there, a lot of eyes, and so it's different. There's a different intensity level. Plus, you're getting ready. I mean, you are getting ready for the season, and you're building that foundation for the season.
Yeah, The eyes on them, I think, is an interesting one, too, because right now the eyes are not on them. But fans will show up. They will be there. They'll be watching. You'll hear the cheers. For some reason, the offense always gets the cheers when it beats the defense, even though they just beat the defense you'll be rooting for, but that's weird. So if you want to know about the way the NFL views things, they know it's an offensive league. Just go to training camps when you hear a touchdown. It's like, oh, man, that was an amazing pass and catch. Yeah, but that cornerback that's going to be guarding, Devontae Adams against the Raiders just got toasted by the third receiver. But that's okay. Cheer all you want. Are there lots of cheers when Mahomes gets intercepted? I mean, there probably should, because number 15 is going to be fine. But if Jalen Watson's out there and tricks Mahomes and gets an interception, hey, that's a positive. I'll take that all day, because it's the reigning MVP. He'll be fine. I think he'll figure it out come game time. Let's take a quick break. We'll come back. I do want to hear from Andy Reid some more and Patrick Mahomes. They talked about the quarterback series, challenging Patrick Mahomes still at this time. Patrick Mahomes being challenged by Andy Reid, the ankle from Patrick Mahomes talking about, and then Andy Reid and his commentary on Chris Jones. We'll do that as we continue rolling along. More Zone right after this.
You're in the zone with Jason Anderson on Sports Radio 810 WHB.
Hey, Kansas City, it's Jeff Briggs with...
Hall of Famer Bally Sports. He is presented by First Federal Bank of Kansas City. The QB series on Netflix has been a blast to watch. And, Josh, I know that you finally finished the series, so congratulations on that.
Thank you.
You and wife Renee finished that. Did she watch all 8 episodes with you, or did you have to finish it solo the last couple?
No, she was as motivated to watch it as I was, at sometimes more motivated to watch it than I was. It was a legitimately great experience.
That's awesome. I may watch it again if my wife would like to watch it, because she's watched a couple of episodes of Hard Knocks with me. It's sort of that behind the scenes stuff. So I think she would enjoy this one even more when you throw in the family aspect of it and the wives and what goes on behind the scenes there. So I might end up watching it again. But here's Patrick Mahomes weighing in on the Netflix quarterback series.
It's had a great reaction. Being number 1 in the U.S. on Netflix is awesome. I mean, that's what you hope for. But obviously, to get that is amazing. I got to watch a lot of my parts, but to see the other parts as well, and see how the guys went about it, and Kirk and Marcus. I mean, it was truly awesome to be at that premiere with those guys and see the reactions from everybody. And everything I've said has been everything that's been said has been positive. I told y'all there's a lot of cussing from me, and I try to cut out as much as possible. But I get on that football field, and I let a few words go that I don't usually.
It's an interesting dilemma for Patrick Mahomes, because he does have an image that people know about him, and especially when he's at the podium and things like that. To then know that there needs to be some things included in this of what happens on a football field. But also, it'd be kind of fun if kids were watching, but certainly my kid won't watch the scene of going up against Max Crosby. But it's one of my favorite scenes of the entire series, and it happened in episode number 1. So it's got to be this weight, or this sort of attempt to weigh, like, no, there's a lot more that I cut out, because on the field, you're just a different animal. It's a different beast. And that's where you kind of have to take yourself in the NFL. I mean, these are 250-pound men that are trying to, hit you as hard as they can legally, and sometimes, a little outside the rules. You got to be at a certain place mentally to be able to do that, and some curse words happen. Not everybody's just going to be Pollyanna and nice and shaking hands and patting you on the helmet and saying, "Oh, good job." He does that a lot too.
It just hit me. Didn't The Last Dance, didn't they do like a PG version of that on ESPN2 or something?
Oh, that's a good point. Yeah,
I think they did. And I'm a little surprised now to think about them not even offering that. I'm so glad that it is as R-rated as it is, because we can hear from Andy Reid too. There's stuff that it was never going to be allowed to be put on Netflix from behind the, we never see Andy Reid's whiteboard. That's for a reason. And I'm okay with that. I understand that is a sacrifice to make. But it made it all feel more real, more raw, more unedited. And hey, here's what it really takes to be Patrick bleeping Mahomes.
You woke up the wrong guy.
Fella.
You woke up the wrong quarterback.
I think you've got to let Everett watch it, because it's important to see examples of cursing in a cool way at an early age.
Is that right?
Yes. Like, yeah. Hey, man, if you ever do anything as cool as Patrick Mahomes, you can yell 5 times you woke up the wrong mother bleeper.
When Dad does that watching the Chiefs game, and that's not a cool way to curse.
Not a cool way to curse.
No. But and also, do not do that in a game.
Yeah.
If
you're
playing
a flag.
You got kid pitch coming up. And if the guy
Right.
hangs one right over the plate, you threw a fastball to the wrong mother bleeper. We're going to go ahead and have a pinch runner for our guy at first here. You hung one to the wrong mother bleeper.
If you can hear this, I will give you $20 cash to hit a dinger and to yell at the pitcher, flip your bat, yell at the pitcher, you woke up the wrong mother bleeper, and then stare down your dad as you round the bases. I will give you $20 cash at any point in your life. I will need some sort of evidence of this. Maybe somebody can film it.
Well, I mean, there'll probably be video of each at bat he has. I mean, I asked my wife to take video of every single one of his at bats so I can, watch it. We can watch film at home and study the at bats that he has. No, but I just want to see what they look like from a different perspective. But see, here's the thing: he wouldn't touch second base if that happened. He'd be running towards first, rounding, and I would pick him up and take him to the dugout, sit him down, and somebody else would be immediately playing for him. Well, he didn't touch. Oh, you forgot to turn. You're supposed to go to third base. No, he's done. He's not playing the rest of the game.
Rounds first, you just clothesline him. You don't even move your feet.
Yeah.
You just stick your arm out.
Yeah, no. We'll keep that ball because that's a home run. It's just not going to count as a run for the team. That's all. So a home run single is what it is. We'll count it as a single, and then he left the base pads, so he's out.
You see the Ohtani bat flip?
No, I haven't.
Oh, dude. Come on. That's the film he needs to be watching. Hitting the baseball, don't really care. Flipping the bat, that's what the cool guys do.
No, he's actually one of the few kids that hits the ball and actually lays the bat down and doesn't fire it to the kid on deck.
Men, summer is here.
Hi, this is Mark Ferguson, attorney at law. If you ever hear one of these phrases, how much have you had to drink tonight, sir? Do you know how fast you were going? I'm going to need you to step out of the car. Then you may be looking...
RSVP. The Royals made it a nail-biter last night, highlighted by an incredible game from Darren Blanco. Blanco went 4 for 4 and came just feet short of the cycle. Instead, he settles for merely hitting 1 triple, 2 doubles, a single, and knocking in 3 RBI. The Royals trailed 2-0 early, extended the lead all the way to 7-2, and ultimately won 11-10, getting the win for Daniel Lynch. The record is 28-68. Tonight, Ryan Yarbrough returns to the mound for the second time since suffering facial fractures after being hit by a line drive on May 7th. We'll talk some baseball. Most will talk about the Chiefs being back in St. Joe. Isaiah Pacheco is out there, a good sign for his health. More on that in the Zone next.
Hey, it's the Drake. Join me at Johnny's Tavern in Topeka Thursday. I will be broadcasting live from 4 until 6. Everyone who stops in will be registered to win a great grand prize. Your group will win a tailgate setup for a K-State football game. Includes 4 tickets to the game, a prime location next to Bill Snyder Family Stadium with your own tent, 5 chairs, and a giant cooler. All you have to do is show up. Johnny's Tavern, Kansas City's premier sports bar, always serving up the best burgers, pizzas, and wings in town. Thursday at Johnny's in Topeka at 2821 South Fair Lawn. You can find all of the Johnny's locations at johnnystavern.com.
The Zone with Jason Anderson.
Those 9 grandkids are awesome. They keep you young and at the same time make you feel old. It's kind of like sweet and sour pork.
On Sports Radio 810.
All right, we continue right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. Jason Anderson with you. Josh Brisco, Dylan Michaels. We head up until 2 o'clock. We'll talk with Jeff Montgomery coming up an hour from now. Tex says, I got 20 on that. So that's now $40 for Everett to do that. So
yes. Oh, man, this could work out.
See, I think the issue you run into is it's got to be a home run first and foremost. So I think you got a few years before that's going to happen.
That's okay. The offer stands for the entirety of his life, actually.
Yes. Tex says the show does have an MA rating for language, though. I mean, absolutely. Yeah, it does. And
but
honestly,
it's only Patrick Mahomes' fault.
Yeah. But honestly, I want it to, I want that.
Yeah.
I want the raw emotion that's there. And I get it. There might be some kids that want to watch, and my kid can watch it. I'll just know I've already seen it now. So I know where some of those curse words are. And so, I could certainly turn it down or, just have a cough. I'm sorry about that. Coughing. No, he was just talking to a Max Crosby. Max isn't hitting him anymore. After that, oh, yeah. Boy, his allergies are
woke up the wrong. Achoo! Woke up the wrong. Achoo! You woke up the wrong. Achoo! Sorry, man. There's a lot.
Dad, you've never. His mom and they do the 3 sneeze.
They're triple sneezers.
It must be hereditary because
Okay.
I've never done that once in my life. My wife sneezes 3 times. Everett 3 times. Weird, but whatever.
Huh.
5 times. Dad, you've never done that. I don't know. Just must be something in the air. Not
man,
sure.
These allergies woke up the wrong mother nasal passage.
You woke up the wrong mother sneezer.
Ooh, I like that. That's a good one.
Yeah. And then that would make sense because his mother is a 3.
She's the mother sneezer.
She's the mother sneezer.
Perfect.
You woke up the wrong mother sneezer.
She should start saying that if at any point she is woken up earlier than she absolutely has to be.
Yes, that's right. 913-912-4810 is the text line. 913-3-810-810 is the phone line. And we give that out because we are going to be giving away Dude Perfect tickets. All week long, we'll be giving these away, or I should say the next 3 days. We'll be giving these away. Dude Perfect Pandemonium 2023 Tour live at T-Mobile Center coming up a week from tomorrow. So that is the 27th. And we are going to be giving away Dude Perfect tickets today, tomorrow, Friday. They've got brand new battles, the unbelievable cool, not cool items that'll blow your mind, tons more. Again, that's a week from tomorrow, July 27th. At the T-Mobile Center, the Dude Perfect Pandemonium 2023 Tour live. Let's give away 2 pair. Let's do this. Let's give away 2 pair of tickets to caller 8 and to caller 10. 2 pair of tickets to Dude Perfect coming up a week from tomorrow.
That sounds perfect, dude.
Tex says, my wife is a solid 4 sneezes. People will say, God bless you, and I'm like, wait for it. Yeah, I know, I'm not dropping the bless you after first. No, I don't have time for 3 bless yous. I figure 1 bless you will cover all of the sneezes that take place.
That's how that works,
right?
I think. Yeah, absolutely. If you are in a consecutive sneeze situation, if you sneeze and then 30 seconds later you sneeze again, I may bless you one more time. I might. But if we're achoo, no, you're not. I'm not trying to get in before the next one. Bless you. Achoo. Gesundheit. Achoo. Blessings to your family. Achoo.
You have to do it in different languages for it to count.
Oh, I like that. I like that a lot.
Also, if you say bless you in the middle of the sneezes and then don't offer another bless you when the sneezes are over, has that person actually been blessed?
That's a great point. And do you need to try to bless each sneeze? Is it the coverall of all of whatever the reason we do this for, because they're sneezing out a demon or whatever the
like their soul or something. You
something
sneeze
like
out
that.
Your soul, and so it's a bless you. So then the soul goes back in, or some whatever the history behind that thing is.
So I mean, it's really high stakes if you think about it.
Because if that's the point, then you would have to wait till the end. Because if you did it in the middle, bless you, and the soul went back in, the next sneeze, the soul would then leave the body, and now it's like, well, hold on. Where's my bless you? Sorry, I already used it earlier. I apologize. Man,
there is only one person in this world who I know still has their soul. Only one person who I'm completely confident still has their soul. It's Quinnen Williams.
Oh.
Because he had that clip, it was right after he got drafted, I think, where he's doing an interview and he goes, "Achoo, bless you, thank you." Right back into his answer. He blessed himself, thanked himself, and kept it moving. That man's soul is not going anywhere.
Can you bless yourself?
I don't know. That's a great. I think you may need a priest.
I mean, if you're a man of the cloth, then you could probably bless yourself, right?
I think, Jason, if you're a man of the cloth, I think you explicitly cannot bless yourself, if you know what I mean.
But I'm just saying, do you have to find somebody else then? Go touch a little holy water, you know?
Yeah, I think.
A cross on the forehead, a little ash.
I think this is how indulgences started. I think this caused a rift. What we're tiptoeing into right now.
Also, and it has bless you evolved from being a religious saying to then just being courteous.
It definitely is courteous. Okay, here's a question for you, Jason. Here's a question.
Okay.
And I don't even want to make it here at 810 because I think it's too easy here. You know what? Let's make it the 810 bathroom.
Okay.
You're, washing your hands because you're an upstanding individual. Mm-hmm. Somebody in the stall, not sure who, somebody sneezes. What do you do?
Bless you.
You've not interacted with this person. They've been in there since you walked in. You walk in, wash your hands, walk out.
Oh yeah, that's a great one. So they're not at the urinal.
No, no,
okay.
They're in the stall,
So
and you don't know who it is, and they don't know that you're there.
You can make a case like we're almost in different rooms, kind of.
See, I think that is part of the fabric of humanity.
1000% agree.
Is that in the bathroom you either make eye contact and you're having a conversation, or you don't meet that person there. They don't even exist. Object permanence is not a thing in the restroom.
Yeah, I'm probably ignoring it, I think, unless I know the person.
Right.
Like if I know the person, it's like, oh, hey, bless you, and then I'm on my way out. If I don't know them and they just simply walk by me and head there and I'm washing my hands and that happens, I'm probably just leaving. It's less of a courteous thing at that point because I don't know that person. So,
I think, and
they don't know me.
They may be having their soul sold to an eternity of damnation. It's hard to say for sure, but the courtesy that we are giving them in this circumstance, because I'm with you. I think if I don't know exactly who is in there sneezing, I'm not saying a word. You're doing the courtesy of not making them have to come to terms with the fact that there is another person in the bathroom with them right there, which is never ideal. It happens all the time. It's just not ideal. You'd rather be in there by yourself.
Yes. Text says, I let my 6 and 9-year-olds watch quarterback. When they hear cussing, I use it as an opportunity to parent my kids. Patrick's an adult. He can say, bleep, you can't. Says it's not his job or responsibility to parent our children. Oh, I agree with that last part, certainly. And that's where the job or responsibility is on the parent to do my kids watch it? Do they not? And if they watch it, then at that point I say, look, this is, this is part of, he's a grown up. He's in the middle of competition and things like that. You are 7 years old. So you are governed by different rules. Okay. I'll treat you fairly, but I'm not going to treat you the same. Okay, it's like what Jimmy Johnson said. I'm not going to treat everybody the same, but I'll treat you fair. It's like the running back that they cut after he fumbled the football, and he's like, Emmitt Smith fumbles. And like, he's Emmitt Smith, you jackass.
Yep.
I'm going to treat you fair, but you're not going to be treated the same. I'll be fair to you. It's a different level of that. Yes, Patrick Mahomes is treated. If Patrick Mahomes was 8 years old and they were filming quarterback for 8-year-olds and he was doing that, yeah, there probably might be an issue with that. So yeah, it's a question of, do I let my kids watch it or not? I have no problem if somebody lets their kids watch it and explains that. They've probably heard it before. Probably heard it in your own house. Who knows? If that's the case.
There's a reason that the world reacted very differently watching Patrick Mahomes in quarterback and watching baby Gronk. We all decided there was a place to draw the line, and it's somewhere around there, somewhere between those two.
That's right. Peyton Manning has come out and said that they are going to do a season 2 of quarterback on Netflix, and they have yet to announce the quarterbacks, and I wonder if they have yet to even figure out who the quarterbacks are, because there's video in training camp, and you have to get it cleared through the team. You got to get cleared through the coaches. You got to get cleared through all different things and have everything set up. So I would guess that if they've okayed a second season, that's probably been talked about before, or did Netflix wait to see the reception of quarterback and it being the number 1 viewed show in America, number 5 worldwide? Did they wait for that to then say, okay, let's do a second season? And if they did, I'm guessing that the Omaha Productions probably have a number of quarterbacks in mind that if the second season happened, that it wouldn't be, a second. Hey, guys, let's come together. Let's huddle up. Who do we think we should go at? Like, they've probably been in contact with
Jared
agents.
Goff. Yeah.
They've been in contact with agents, and it'll be as easy as second season has been approved. All right, bing, bing, bing. This is who we're going to go with. Already talked to their agents. Get everything else cleared, T's crossed, I's dotted, contracts figured out, all of that stuff, monetary payment, all of those things behind the scenes. Boom, let's go. Let's get rolling and go that. So, and it's funny because when did they announce that quarterback was even? It was after the playoffs because we thought Mahomes was documenting his recovery from the ankle injury when he was there at home plate or whatever the
home field,
whatever the fitness place was and workout place, when there were cameras there and a boom mic and we're like, and a parabolic mic to get all this nat sound. And we're like, is he? I guess we'll find out what he went through this week to get ready for the Bengals because he's videoing it. And then, a couple months later, we find out, oh, wait, there's an entire series with Mahomes and Mariota and Kirk Cousins and a quarterback series on Netflix, and it's going to be all of this access behind the scenes. If that's the case, then I wonder if they ever announce it during the season of who the 3 quarterbacks were.
It's interesting because they could probably get some free marketing by putting out who it is this time, now that everyone knows this is a show that exists and everything. But is there a benefit to it being under wraps? I can't see the exact upload date here. June 14th. So a month before it was released is when they released the trailer, the Netflix YouTube trailer of it, June 14th. I think it would make sense this time to say, hey, it's coming, get ready. But also, I mean, this wouldn't come out again until a year from now because they're not going to get that out in season. And frankly, I don't really want it in season. I really like how this ended up all coming together. So they certainly could not actually tell us until that time comes around. I don't know. I hadn't really even given that any thought because I was thinking, well, the announcement of who the quarterbacks are is basically going to be how they announce that season 2 will be coming and people will be jacked for it. But now you got me wondering a little bit.
Well, the text got me wondering when it said better not to reveal the quarterbacks till halfway through the season. And so then I'm like, okay. So I started to think wait a minute, they didn't even reveal it until, I didn't remember. It was just a month ago.
Yeah.
You said June 14th. That's a month ago when we found out there was this series that was going to happen. And now it's the number 1 show on Netflix and things like that. Would it be better to then say, here are the quarterbacks we're going to be following this year? Or as the texter said, maybe, week 12 or something that they say, these are the quarterbacks we're following, or just wait till the season is over and just say, hey, season 2 of quarterback is going to be dropping, July 10th, and in June, here's the trailer. Oh, there you go. These are the 3 quarterbacks we've been following all year. I do wonder if, let's say season 1 was during the 2021 season, and it was 3 different quarterbacks, not including Mahomes. And then they didn't announce who season 2 was. And it goes through, and all of a sudden we see that Mahomes has a camera crew in his rehab before the Bengals. I think there will have been a lot of suspicion of, is Mahomes, I mean, it would make sense for Mahomes to be the guy that's a part of season 2 in quarterback. I mean, they're following him in rehab. Why else would he be there with all of these different cameras and everything? How often have we ever seen him working out with all these cameras and all of that stuff? I don't know. He's got to be that guy. Like, people, if they don't announce it, which could also help for attention, people will be wondering and guessing throughout the season of, oh, is it this guy? Is it that guy? Is it Joe Burrow? Is it Jalen Hurts? Is it Josh Allen? Is it Justin Herbert? Like, who's it going to be this year?
I know we talked about it a tiny bit, but did you? What were your answers for your 3? I think Russell Wilson is absolute gold. I would just love to see that.
My 3 were Jalen Hurts because I found him to be so incredibly interesting in his conversations at the awards dinner, and so I liked that, and so I'm like, that would be fun. He'd be an interesting follow. Plus, he's got the all-female marketing team, like a team of like 6 women in sports and in marketing that are there with Jalen Hurts. I think that's a really cool angle of sort of that part of his career and choices and people that he's surrounding himself with and decisions that are being made. And the fact that a year ago the Eagles didn't even know if he was going to be their quarterback, but let's put some people around him. And then he goes and has one of the greatest performances in the Super Bowl, has an MVP caliber season if it wasn't for the shoulder injury. And then, like I said, what he did in the Super Bowl, I think that would be an interesting one. There's got to be drama in there of like a quarterback competition. I don't know that they thought Mariota and Ritter was going to be some sort of a quarterback competition. So my thought would be like Ryan Tannehill and then Will Levis, who was drafted. Will Levis could have been a top 5 pick, and then he goes in the second round. It's back-to-back years they've drafted a quarterback, have the Tennessee Titans and Ryan Tannehill there, and they just signed DeAndre Hopkins. So, and Derrick Henry and Mike Vrabel's one of the more respected coaches in the NFL. That would be an interesting one. And then I went with Russell Wilson because I just think it would be fascinating to, sort of the behind the scenes of how you keep a secret that the players just really don't like him. And I think it would be interesting from the fact that, Josh, that it's almost like the exact opposite Russell Wilson of why people liked Kirk Cousins.
Right. So because that's exactly right. I think I said that somewhere when you were not around, and it makes me very happy that we have come to the same conclusion. I don't know if it was on this show yesterday or if it was, I think it was on this show yesterday, actually, we were talking about this stuff. So I'm also interested to see if they keep the archetype of superstar, middle of the road kind of career guy on the bubble, because everyone seems to agree Mariota added the least to that, not because he was on the bubble, but just because of him not being, super demonstrative or super outgoing and not ultimately being as good of television as Mahomes and Cousins were. So we don't know who's going to make good TV out of that group necessarily. But man, just seeing the machinations of Russell Wilson on and off the field, I think would be absolutely fascinating, because that part in particular, Kirk Cousins just seemed genuine. And when I think we were talking about it yesterday on this show, must have been, when else would it have been? I made that point that I think one of the reasons Kirk Cousins is coming off as so likable and that he's making fans from this is because he's just genuine. Like, you just know that's Kirk Cousins. I don't have any doubts about if he's putting on a front. Even in the humility of like hiding my achievements behind this bookshelf in the secret room in my house that has a little nook for a Lombardi trophy, that just seems to be 100% true to who he is. And that sort of film of phoniness is what has stuck to Russell Wilson. And frankly, if that's not fair, that show would be a great way to lay it out. Say, hey, no, he's actually not the guy that he's been sort of stereotyped into being. I'd be happy to be proven wrong. I was proven wrong about a lot of things with Kirk Cousins and my expectations for him.
Well, Kirk Cousins is unapologetically him, and totally comfortable in his own skin. And the reputation around Russell Wilson is he's playing the role of what he thinks a quarterback should be.
Right, exactly.
Instead of just simply being Russell Wilson and this is who you are. No, this is what. You got to work out in the up and down the aisle of a plane. That's what a quarterback does. You got to do these things. You got to do all this. You got to present yourself this way, because that's what a quarterback is supposed to do in the NFL. And it's like, no, Kirk Cousins, what does a quarterback do? He leads. And I thought there were some interesting things too. Like Kevin O'Connell, at least from what they showed, he was part of his strategy was building Kirk Cousins up to almost believing in himself and almost having the team believe in him, as opposed to sort of the feeling of he's the problem. Like, it's no, this is what your quarterback did. Hey, look at your quarterback doing this. Like, there were some times when it's like, Kirk, you can't do that. Like the quarterback sneak. Like, dude, I will put us in a better formation if that's the case. You can't do that. All right. And then times when Kirk is mad and O'Connell's like, calm down. You know, and no, I am annoyed, and walks away. And then O'Connell's like, well, you know, there's times you just got to understand who you're. But there was a lot of building up. There was a lot of instilling confidence. No, you're my guy. You're my guy. Even if he may not be his guy. I don't know how many other coaches do that. That was one of the takeaways I had from, you know, the Kirk Cousins aspect of somebody who really does understand his critics and understands what people have said about him. And I think there's a part of him that doesn't really understand it because he's aware. I shouldn't say he understands, but he's aware of his critics and maybe doesn't understand it to a degree, because he even talked about, like, it's weird. I've got these primetime games where I've got game balls from them. Apparently, I played well in those games. I don't understand. Like, you know, it's
pretty sure they don't give these out if you suck. I think
that's right.
More or less the line.
That was the line that he had. And it's like, you know, and then his coach was like, it's a primetime game. I'm pretty sure this kickoff happened at this time, and your quarterback was 30 of 37, 3 touchdowns, and it was a lot of belief in Kirk Cousins. From it was one of the takeaways that I had. Didn't have a whole lot of that feel with Mariota, but that could be something that they just did not show, and there wasn't needed for Patrick Mahomes. We just were watching a guy who's an MVP, a superstar, that's been through that, and his critics are people are arguing that he was gifted a really good situation, and if he had another situation, he wouldn't be nearly as good as he is right now. Duh. Like, that's the critic. Well, yeah, he showed up with Andy Reid, and that team was ready to win. Sure, but that team hadn't been to the AFC Championship game, and it's been to 5 straight since then. He's got 2 Super Bowls and 2 MVPs and 3 Super Bowl appearances. Like, he took that team to another level. He's done that, but you know, and then so the range of quarterbacks was great. But even like the coaching interaction was interesting, and which coaches were more willing to do some of those things.
All right, so I want to pitch you on my final 3 here, because I'm more or less following the archetype, but I think that casting the third guy is the most difficult one. So I'm going Josh Allen as my sort of top guy. I think he or Hurts would be great. Burrow would also be great, but there's just a little more sense of urgency in Buffalo right now. Just for this season in particular, that I would like. I am more interested, and this is part of the Stephon Diggs thing. I'm more interested in the behind the scenes of Buffalo than I am the behind the scenes of Philadelphia right now. So that's like a tiebreaker.
Yep.
Russ, I just want more than anything. He's my first pick in this draft. I just would like to see that. But here's my third guy, and he doesn't have the rookie or rookie and second year player behind him like Tannehill does. This isn't a total placeholder just for this season, because I don't know what the backup plan would be. But go ahead and give me 8 episodes of Baker Mayfield in Tampa Bay.
Wow, yeah.
Holding off Kyle Trask shouldn't be that hard, I would think. But you've got him in this chance for a little bit of a renaissance, where really his renaissance came from, 3 or 4 games with the Rams? Did he get 6 games with them, maybe? He's the guy who is succeeding Tom Brady, but for a team that has such thoroughly lower expectations than they did with Brady. Like, they've lost pieces other than just him. So I don't know. I have no idea what the Buccaneers record is going to be this year. I couldn't begin to guess. But I think he would be a good dude to follow around for 20 or so weeks of content.
So I don't have interest in Burrow for obvious reasons. I don't care about seeing Burrow and the Bengals and that stuff behind the scenes from their perspective. Don't care about it.
Yeah,
don't
fine.
See it.
Fine me.
The Josh Allen, though, I'm with you on that one. Josh Allen would be really interesting. And there's a text that came in with a number of people weighing in on the 3 quarterbacks they'd like to see. 2 of the 3 have the same. They have Josh Allen and Baker Mayfield. But he went with Danny Dimes. He went with Daniel Jones with the Giants. as his third instead of Russell Wilson. So it's Josh Allen, Daniel Jones, and Baker Mayfield.
I was gonna say I just have no faith in him being interesting, but I would have said that completely confidently about Kirk Cousins. So I'm leaving the door open.
That's right.
I would have been wrong.
Yeah, absolutely. And like the one that would be like, okay, is this guy going to be interesting or not? Would be the Daniel Jones of the group, because Josh Allen I expect to be interesting.
Mm-hmm.
He seems fun. Baker Mayfield, is interesting. I mean, the guy ran from the cops, so I mean, Baker, you never know what you're going to get with him. And he's a pretty good actor, and his wife is involved in that stuff, and so sort of that personality, I think he would be fun to follow around. And he's kind of got that bleep you to his game too on the field. We know that. And then whoever the third would be, I don't know. Man, it's the rivalry thing. I just do not care to see Joe Burrow in this series, but I'm pretty convinced it's going to be Joe Burrow.
I think he has star factor, but I think that for whatever reason, and I maybe this is just what you've been laying out and hinting at, so we're just kind of sick of talking about the Bengals, but it feels like there's just a little less intrigue around them and Burrow than there would be around the Bills and Allen right now. But this again would be this is the catch-22 of how Netflix either can't win or can only win, depending, I guess, on how they pick these guys. You get up close and follow Joe Burrow around for the entirety of a season, and I'm guessing we will find out more interesting things about him. We will see more of his personality, and they will find interesting stuff about it. I think he's a little more buttoned up than Allen, and that he might end up being the buttoned up quarterback of this generation, while Mahomes has already been so successful that he was able to unbutton a couple of buttons. I don't know that Burrow is going to let himself do that until he wins one. I don't know. That might be totally arbitrary, but it seems like kind of how he's wired. And I think that watching Josh Allen lose in another AFC Championship game would be really good television and kind of funny, because it's just that 13-second stare that I'm thinking about now that feels like it's how his seasons always seem to end.
Yeah, that's probably right. And look, if it's like from entertainment standpoint, just in the NFL, if I'm there choosing like the quarterbacks, there's a couple of ways of approaching it. One is, hey, who do I want to see? Who would I pick if it's just me? Or like me growing up in Kansas City, watching the rivalry and everything. No thank you to Joe Burrow. But if I'm sitting in Peyton Manning's chair, and I'm sitting in Netflix's chair, and who am I going to go get? Joe Burrow would be my first call. And the reason he'd be my first call, and I get the whole, like, there's less sort of intrigue with the Bengals as opposed to the Bills, because the Bengals are a team that's right there. They've played in the AFC Championship the last 2 years. He's nipping at the heels, at least for those trying to find the Peyton to the Brady of Patrick Mahomes. He's cocky as all get out. He's good enough to back it up. And I think there's a part of Joe Burrow that's sort of like, you know what, bleep you, I am on Mahomes' level. And so they're a really good team. I think Joe Burrow, and not knowing him whatsoever, I think Joe Burrow would want to do this, would want to show what his life is behind the scenes, what he's doing to get ready. And it's an element of, the single guy. It's not the family man with the kids. He's the only one that would not have kids. Mariota was having a kid going through the season. Kirk Cousins has a couple of kids. Patrick Mahomes had one and another one on the way. It'd be Joe Burrow, sort of this guy that's living the life there in Cincinnati and has this awesome team around him, has an awesome, fan base that loves that team and is diehard and passionate. And he's a pretty cocky dude. And I think, Mahomes has a level of cockiness to him when he's on the field. Off the field, it's sort of like, oh, well, yeah, these teams are really good that we're playing. And, oh, well, I was counting to 4 because, it's just, or counting to 10 or whatever. Yeah, I don't know. It was just something that we had talked about. I'm not sure what that was about. Yeah, we know what that was about, but not going to say it at the podium. Burrow has a little bit of that. But I'd really, if I'm Peyton Manning and I'm Netflix, I'm wanting to see what Joe Burrow's like mic'd up on the field when he's talking to opponents. What's he saying to them?
And you have convinced me. If Netflix makes this the second season and it is starring Joe Burrow, I will watch it. I'll admit it here. I'm down. I'm in.
I'll watch it too. Just to see all the ways that he's lesser than.
See, I think the one narrative that I think Netflix will push, and narrative is the wrong word, but I think one thing they will be largely pretty careful to do in this series, if they do hope to keep making it, is to at least make you respect these guys, if not straight up like them. Because that's where I ended up. I liked Kirk Cousins. I did not like him before the show. I respected Marcus Mariota more now than I did before. I mean, him like leaving the team's kind of weird, but like as going through the effort that it takes to be Marcus Mariota and to be on the bubble of the league, I have a lot of respect for that. I would love it if Joe Burrow wanted to just play the villain, but my hunch would be that it'll be starring him, and by the end, you're going to have at least a little bit, Jason, at least a little bit of. Yeah, I kind of like Joe Burrow as a person a little bit. I don't want to watch him play football, but I do think there's going to be a charming moment. You know there's going to be a charming moment.
I wonder if there are any Bengals fans that are like, you know what, I can't stand that mother bleeper playing for the Chiefs, but you know what, I kind of like this or I like that. Like, I don't know that there is that reaction out there around Patrick Mahomes. Also, from the show, this is a great text, 913-912-4810 says, I'd like to hear more discussion about Mahomes' insane workout, how intimidating that was to the other NFL clubs. Out of the three guys, you know, Kirk Cousins got the chiropractor at his house. You know, Marcus Mariota was doing whatever. He was running hills after practice, right, and getting some guys to do that with him.
That
Patrick
episode
Mahomes was. Go ahead.
I would say that episode, his little vignette was with his friend who was his cook, which I mentioned because we talked about yesterday. That was the episode where they got great access going to people who are not the team. Like, I was shocked that they got an interview with Julie and got to have like the storyline of her through the Super Bowl of all of that. Point. It was awesome. I am very glad that the Chiefs gave that much, that crumb of access to different Burkholder and Julie Freymeier. I stumble over her name every time. Sorry, Julie. First name basis at this point. And then to show her with tears in her eyes in the locker room after the Super Bowl. Oh, so great. Anyway, I'm sorry to cut you off, but that sequence of chiropractors, Bobby, Mariota's friend, who's the chef, that was all Netflix not needing to get NFL clearance for those clips.
Absolutely, but it also shows like the different level, like what Mahomes is doing during the season. Like he's doing workouts of like what seems like power lifters or a defensive end or a defensive lineman, an offensive lineman, you know, a linebacker. Like these workouts that he's doing, and he's a quarterback. And there's always that. Well, if you're a quarterback, man, do you get too big? If you get too big, and now all of a sudden are you as free flowing and your joints being able to have the range of motion? Because people know when you pack on mass, you sacrifice flexibility. Everybody knows this. So it's like, are you able to do those things? And then you watch the workouts, and Bobby Stroop's like main thing is, you know, the disconnection between the hip and the shoulders and what he does this and flexibility there and being able to look over this side and running this way and his body twisting that way and his arm allotment on this. Like it's all about like the kinesiology and the physics of the entire body being able to practice the things that he's doing in the game that separates him from other quarterbacks is just on another level. And like, I wonder how many people even do those things. How many people practice stretching your ligaments out so that you won't have an issue there? And it's hard to stretch your ligament out on your ankle the other way, when it's a high ankle sprain. But Mahomes talked about that when they in the touchdown pass against the Bucs, when he spun back, and it's like, I'm like that, right? Tosses it to Clyde Edwards-Helaire. When you watch the replay, he lands awkwardly, and a guy lands on his ankle. Yeah. And it looks like it could have been pretty bad, but he just gets right back up. And he discussed that from that particular play. That he and Bobby work on those things. They work on like flexibility for spraining a frickin' ankle. You know what I mean? Like it's a different level of thinking. And as much as like Patrick Mahomes has done all these things, like Bobby's a big part of that. You know, seeing what he's doing behind the scenes and creating that.
And it was good to see that ahead of time, like before it actually happened, because that was, some of those things they clearly filmed after the fact and like the one-on-one kind of things, right? But the work that we were seeing was just the work they were doing in the regular season, and then it's playoff time and his ankle is bending. Oh, that's the wrong way. That may be the wrongest way for an ankle to bend.
And then I like this on. We'll take a time out with this, but after the series was over, Jeff Schwartz tweeted. I don't know if you saw Jeff Schwartz and then Bobby Stroop talking on Twitter.
No, I didn't.
After the series, Jeff Schwartz said, "Always enjoy seeing the play call and the whatever scheme or whatever, then not matching up with what is shown on the field in these series. So like jumping, and Bobby Stroop replied and said, yeah, same thing for in-season workouts. So apparently the timing of some of those workouts didn't exactly match up to where they were in the season when that was happening.
That does make some sense. Yeah.
So that's but they do that for you know that's going to happen. There's going to be some cuts and some different things for the drama. And also there was they sort of, while they were going through the season, they also sort of cut it into different themes, like the working out, the play calling. Like they were doing those things in the episodes while following the players through the season. And you can't do that all in like 1 week. Right. Where, okay, now we're going to focus on play calls between week 5 and week 6. Well, no, we're taking this entire season worth of stuff and then using it there while also the season is progressing in the background as sort of the backdrop of this entire series. So
episode 2 or 3, whatever it was, the homecoming one, Kirk Cousins didn't go to Washington, Marcus Mariota didn't go to Seattle, and Patrick Mahomes didn't go get his number retired all in the same weekend. I can't remember when they all were, but I'm like 99% sure that didn't just work out that way.
Yeah, that homecoming. We'll take a timeout. We'll come back. We'll continue rolling. Running backs. I want to talk about that. There's a lot of running backs upset in the NFL about the value and being undervalued, devalued, whatever that is. I do want to talk about that value, monetarily or not, of the running back position. We'll do that on the other side of the break. More Zone next.
Want to see more of The Zone? Watch the show live on the Sports Radio 810 WHB Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and Twitch.
Proper diagnosis and treatment of erectile dysfunction requires good medical practitioners and the right medical solution for your specific condition, because your health matters. An improper diagnosis can cause problems and not give you the outcome you desire. This is Jeff for Heartland Men's Health, and if you have ED, there's nowhere better than our clinics to find the right therapy to get your sex life back. At Heartland Men's Health, we're nothing like the online pill sellers or pop-up acoustic wave offices that offer a one-size-fits-all approach to treating your condition, because we know those treatments aren't right for many men. Heartland Men's Health is part of a group that has successfully treated tens of thousands of men, and our protocols have success rates with well over 90%. So call us first. Your initial appointment is only $99 and includes blood work, a medical consult, and if medically advised, a test dose. And if that test dose doesn't work in the office, your visit is free. Call 844-447-6600 or go to heartlandmenshealth.com. Heartland Men's Health, a Promenic restorative health practice.
This summer, we're quirking for the weekend every day. Quirk is Kansas City's favorite hard seltzer, made with real juice and more personality. Hit flavors like pineapple orange whip are available on draft and in cans at Johnny's Tavern across the metro. Visit your favorite Johnny's and scan the QR code to be entered to win an Ultimate Quirk Summer Prize Pack. No purchase necessary. Must be 21 plus. Quirk Hard Seltzer, Kansas City, Missouri. Please enjoy responsibly.
Robert Brogdon's Olathe Buick GMC is proud to be the area's #1 GM dealer. Find the power you need in a new GMC Sierra truck or a stylish and comfortable SUV like the new Buick Enclave or Encore GX. And don't forget their 90-day money-back guarantee. Shop robertbrogdon.com.
Double Tap KC in the River Market, your only destination in Kansas City to enjoy next-level gaming and watch your favorite sporting events at the same time. Don't forget about our all-day happy hour on Thursdays. Mention 810 or use 810 at checkout and get 10% off your next experience. DoubleTapKC.com.
You're always better with a roof from JR.
Well, that was fun. And who says we don't get hurricanes in KC? That storm that blew through last week had Category 1 hurricane winds. And now, here come all the hail-chasing roofers. But there was no hail. And inspecting a roof for wind damage is a lot different than inspecting for hail damage. Unlike hail's dings and dents, wind damage likes to hide until the next storm when your roof leaks. That is exactly why you need to call JR & Company. With years of hurricane experience in Florida, locally owned JR & Company knows how to find the wind damage that others might miss. And they know how to deal with insurance adjusters on wind claims. As always, our inspection and your peace of mind are free at jrroofcheck.com.
You're always better.
conversation going on around that. We talked with Jerome Bettis last week about him viewing it as being devalued in terms of the money behind it. And the conversation we got into was like, okay, there are some players, I think, at the highest level that are difference makers that, could be worth the money in terms of sort of viewing them as playmakers instead of just like the running back position. Specifically, this guy is a playmaker. It's why I was perfectly fine with the Christian McCaffrey deal that was signed. It's like, because, he signed that contract and he had 100 receptions the year before. Like, if a receiver had 100 receptions and put up the yards and the touchdowns and what he did for that offense and signed that contract, like, oh, okay, yeah, makes sense. Running back did it. It's like, whoa, why are you doing that for a running back? A little bit of an overreaction from that standpoint. But the running backs have been very vocal around the NFL, Josh, about the money that's not going their way because Saquon Barkley and Tony Pollard, Josh Jacobs did not reach the agreements that, was the expectation that they would not sign those contracts. The teams would not give them those long-term deals. And it's been about, okay, so we come in, we do these things, and then you don't pay us or you just churn them and burn them. Like there's a feeling of being insulted at the running back position. And I get it. I understand why they feel that way. But it's also life in the NFL. It's the reality of what that position is from a value standpoint and what it takes to win in the NFL versus what it used to take to win in the NFL. The middle linebacker isn't getting a crap ton of money compared to other players on the defense. And we used to talk about, like, the most important position at one point, middle linebacker. Who's the middle linebacker on that defense? Oh, middle linebacker on that defense. You got to have that middle linebacker on the defense. And then it was about getting the quarterback and defensive ends and edges and cornerbacks. But it's like, hey, parents, mothers, don't let your kids grow up to be running backs. Okay, don't let them grow up to be inside linebackers either. Like, it's just changing value that's there, and it's a matter of what it takes to win and where you're going to spend your resources. And it's a tough reality for the running backs nowadays, but, it is what it is, and it's going to continue being that.
Yeah, and I think there's like two conversations being had simultaneously here that are just making it harder to understand the other, because what is happening here? Not that complicated of an answer, right? It is running backs now, maybe for the first time, really getting paid commensurate to their value in terms of what they add in your ability to win football games. It's something we've been talking about for years, that this offseason kind of feels like it might be the watershed moment for the NFL, catching up to a lot of like Twitter wisdom. Twisdom? I'm not sure. But that's relatively easy, right? There's just not much evidence that running backs are a good long-term investment. They are hard to predict. And there's just not that much difference, pick a super local example, between the 32nd overall pick and a 7th rounder a couple years apart. Like that, those are just the facts of this that we've pretty well litigated over the last several years. The thing that I think is happening now is when it's the name Saquon Barkley or Josh Jacobs or Tony Pollard, it feels wrong in a way that it doesn't feel wrong to say, yeah, running backs are pretty similar, hard to predict, and not good investments long-term because they break down. That's relatively easy conventional wisdom stuff. But when you go, well, but Saquon Barkley's really good. I had Saquon Barkley on my fantasy team, and he was the Giants' best player for all these years. What do you mean Saquon Barkley's not going to get a long-term extension? Well, because that is the right financial move. It's just a bad vibe. No one is saying that running backs aren't fun and cool, and in many ways the heartbeat of football still, maybe not as much as the quarterback, depending on how you want to kind of litigate all of this, but we're in Kansas City. I grew up watching and loving running backs from Priest Holmes, Larry Johnson to Jamal Charles. I mean, this city has loved running backs and running games and great offensive lines for decades. And so I think it feels wrong when it's the guys you draft first in fantasy, the jerseys you see in the stands. Why aren't they getting paid more? This sort of tearing of cloth never happened as the middle linebackers, as their value decreased over the years. If Ray Lewis somewhere in there would have been allowed to walk because no one was going to pay him, it would have felt weird. Brian Urlacher and even Luke Kuechly got the last kind of big Mike linebacker deal probably, right? Patrick Willis, if I had to guess, but even those guys were kind of in the changing of the NFL's defensive building blocks. Running back's been a long time coming. We're just now finally seeing the consequence of the NFL adjusting to those numbers, and it sucks. It's no fun. We all like running backs, but we can all see exactly how they got here. And would you tell Brett Veach to go trade a third-round pick and give a contract to Saquon Barkley? Hell no, you wouldn't. So that, I think, is relatively simple. It's just complicated in the way that makes people feel.
I mean, right here in our own backyard. I mean, Damian Williams and Isaiah Pacheco, Jerick McKinnon. You talk about two low-level free agent signings and a seventh-rounder.
Yep.
And then a guy who was a first-round draft pick who they spent a lot of resources, a valuable pick on, is the guy that, has just sort of been an also-ran on the team in terms of a running back. And not the guy that it's like, okay, you went to the Super Bowl that year with him at running back, but he wasn't the difference maker that maybe a first-round draft pick, something else could have been, a first-round draft pick tackle. Maybe that steps in and helps out a little bit. Who knows? Some of it's revisionist history from that standpoint, but also some of it is, we discussed it at the time of there's no such thing as a luxury pick when you take a running back in the first round. There are few players on the field that they are the only player on the field at their position. And at one time, and only going to be one player on the field at one time at their position. There is there's three linebackers or four linebackers, even if you say a Mike, a Will, a Sam, whatever it might be, but there's three linebackers. There's two guards, there's two tackles, there's multiple wide receivers, could be multiple tight ends. There's typically one halfback, one quarterback, and one center that's going to be on the field at any given moment. Like, you play that position, you are the main guy for that position. And if you want to look at correlation between what's more important and also contracts, the center position, there are only 6 players with an annual average value at center with $10 million or more. There are 8 running backs with that. But if I go through and look at the Super Bowl winners and I say Creed Humphrey for the Chiefs, Brian Allen for the Los Angeles Rams, Jensen for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, Austin Ryder for the Chiefs, probably one that stands out, David Andrews for the Patriots, Jason Kelsey for the Eagles, David Andrews again for the Patriots, Matt Paredes, who was one of, if not the best centers in all of football for the Denver Broncos, Max Unger for the Seattle Seahawks. You've got top 5, top 10 centers in the league that are winning Super Bowls, where if I look at the top 10 ranked running backs from Pro Football Focus coming into this year, Nick Chubb, number 1, 5 years he's been to 1 playoff. Derrick Henry, number 2, 7 years, he's got 4 total playoff wins. There's your bell cow. Christian McCaffrey, 6 years in the league, he's been to 2 playoffs. Josh Jacobs, 4 years, no playoffs. Jonathan Taylor, no playoffs. Saquon Barkley, 4 years, 1 playoff. Aaron Jones, 6 years, 2 playoffs, wins, 3 playoffs overall. Tony Pollard, 1 playoff win. Austin Eckler, 6 years in the league, 1 playoff win, has only been to 2 playoffs. Dalvin Cook, 6 years in the league, has been to the playoffs twice, has 1 playoff win. What's a better correlation? One of the top centers in the NFL or one of the top running backs in the NFL? If we're just simply looking at the value you bring to a team and what the value should be from monetarily, in exchange of, what you bring to the table, like the top 10 centers, you're winning Super Bowls with them. Top 10 running backs, it's a 50-50 chance you're even going to the playoffs.
And so to just copy that and to paste it in the other side of the conversation I think is being had right now, if Saquon Barkley walked into any fantasy football draft party in the country, he'd get recognized by 90% of those.
Yep.
I think Jason Kelsey is the only center in football with face recognition.
Yep. If Ryan Jensen walked in and said, "I'm Ryan Jensen," 80% of football fans would go, "Who?"
Like, oh, hi, Ryan. Nice to meet you. Who are you looking for?
Ryan Jensen. Okay, Ryan Jensen. Great,
Tom Brady touched your butt. Why didn't you just say I'm the guy whose butt Tom Brady touched?
How does Tom Brady like his balls? Are they deflated, inflated? You have experience with that.
We're already going to have a lot of cuts on Friday, but I will go ahead and make a note of that one.
Good for you. Good for you. I went back and looked because I was sort of curious. Matt Paredes for the Denver Broncos, the year they won the Super Bowl, he had a 90 overall grade. The number 1 center in all of football last year was Creed Humphrey with a 90 overall grade. Max Unger was center for the Seattle Seahawks when they won the Super Bowl. That year he had an 84 overall grade, which would have been the 3rd best last year. And who was the running back with those teams? Well, Marshawn Lynch, pretty good.
Right.
But that's kind of it. When you look at those guys that were the running backs on those teams, Leonard Fournette, who has a tryout with the Patriots, like that's where Leonard Fournette is now, and was on that team. He didn't even start the year with the Bucs.
Right,
So,
he was a top 5 pick, not who he won a Super Bowl with.
yeah, absolutely. And you know what? If Brock Purdy hadn't messed up his elbow, we might be talking about McCaffrey playing for a Super Bowl.
True.
But none of those running backs that I mentioned have played for a Super Bowl. None of them have even gone to the Super Bowl. And yet 1, 2, 3, all of these different centers have gone to the Super Bowl. Those that are like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of the Pro Football Focus's top 10 preseason centers have won a Super Bowl. Not only been to, won a Super Bowl.
That's wild.
Yeah. Running backs, none in the top 10 have even played for one. Just something to keep in mind. We'll take a timeout. We'll come back. More Zone next.
Take the show with you by listening live on 810WHB.com, in the 810 mobile app, or by subscribing to The Zone wherever you get your podcast.
Love the tweet that we got from Jay. Says, peep the date. Netflix on February 22nd is when they announced the quarterback docuseries. So the trailer came out in June, and then a month later the show hit Netflix. But February 20th, it was still post-season, still after the season was over.
We didn't know the quarterbacks then, though, right?
No, it said a docuseries following Kirk Cousins, Marcus Mariota, and Super Bowl champion Patrick Mahomes.
What?
So that was on February 22nd.
All right.
Yeah, interesting. This whole offseason has flown by. And last one, 5 of the top 12 Pro Football Focus, because Brian Allen for the Rams comes in at number 12. So 4 of the top 10 centers at Pro Football Focus have won a Super Bowl, 5 of the top 12.
Listen to The Zone all week for your chance to win tickets to the Dude Perfect Pandemonium 2023 Tour live at T-Mobile Center Thursday, July 27th. Brand new battles, unbelievable cool not cool items that will blow your mind, and tons more. Prepare to be amazed. Dude Perfect will be at T-Mobile Center.
from 10 to 2 on Sports Radio 810 WHB.
All right, we'll continue right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. Jason Anderson with you as we head up until 2 o'clock. Right now, let's talk with Jeff Montgomery, Valley Sports Royals Hall of Famer, presented by First Federal Bank of Kansas City. Monty, how are you, sir?
Well, doing pretty good, Jason. You know how I am. I usually go as the Royals go, and it's been a tough year, but last night was a lot of fun.
That was an adventure. That was an interesting, fun sort of game. What was it like to be there to take that whole thing in of a lead, almost giving up the lead, then taking another sizable lead, and then how nip-tuck it was in the ninth?
Yeah, it's kind of like being on a roller coaster there for a while, and I guess on a ninth you felt like you're out skating on thin ice. So fortunately the ice didn't break. Scott Barlow was able to get that final out to seal that victory because the night before that loss was pretty tough. I mean, it was one of those games that you feel like he should win. 3 runs there in that 8th inning the night before last, and left everybody a little somber leaving the ballpark. But last night a little bit different. Everybody holding their breath right till the end, but fortunately got away with a 10-11 win.
Is it? I mean, it's baseball. So the great thing about it is there's a game the next day if you're playing well. The bad thing about it is there's a game the next day if you're not playing well, or maybe it's vice versa. I don't know. But is it tough to show up the next day when there's a game like on Monday night when you feel like you've got that one in hand and it just gets away from you in one inning and you end up losing? It's grasping defeat from the jaws of victory. It's difficult to show up the next day, or is that one where you're ready to show up the next day and sort of wash that taste out of your mouth?
Yeah, it's a little bit difficult driving home after a game like that or going back to the hotel if you're on the road, but you are anxious to get back to the ballpark. You hope you don't have an off day where you have to kind of sit on that and have the lingering effect of it. Yesterday on our television pregame show, we had John Sherman, the Royals owner, on, and he was talking about how difficult it was for him after the game a couple nights ago when had that 2-0 lead and it evaporates in the 8th inning, and even the owner of the team, that's tough for those guys as well. So, but as a player, I mean, you go to the ballpark every day knowing you got to get ready for a ball game, but sure is a lot more fun when you're going to the ballpark today as opposed to yesterday. Visiting
with Jeff Montgomery, Valley Sports Royals Hall of Famer. Okay, so in that 9th inning, Scott Barlow, he ends up giving up 4 runs. He had been pitching well of late, and last night he just was not pitching all that well. And the command, do you make anything of last night's outing because of how he had been pitching and how well he had been doing, or is there something to take away from last night, regardless of what he had done recently?
Well, I think anytime you put a closer into a game where you've got a sizable difference in the score, you just don't know what you're going to get. I don't know if that was the issue last night with Scott Barlow, but fortunately he was able to gather things and get that final out of the game. I know from my experience, it seems like you should always go in with that intensity, but for some reason, unfortunately, when it's not a close game and you're used to pitching in kind of close, nail-biting type games, sometimes things don't go exactly as well as planned, and you have to work a little bit. I always said that a lot of times I would go in after sitting for 5 or 6 days and not getting work into an 11-1 game, whether you're winning or losing. You go into those games and suddenly things are a little bit different. The catchers are putting down fastball, just trying to get this game over with, and that's really not Scott Barlow's style of pitching. I know it wasn't my style of pitching. As a result, you get away from your game. Next thing you know, you're backing up bases, runs are scoring, and now, hey, you've kind of created it's not a save situation, but you created a situation similar to what you're used to pitching in, then finally you understand that this game now is on the line. I got to find a way to get through this, and fortunately Scott Barlow was able to do it. I don't really read anything into it other than the fact that you're going to have those ups and downs during the course of the year, but the takeaway is that he got that final out.
Yeah, it's interesting you talk about that because it seems like when you put a closer in a non-save situation, as you said, you never really know what you're going to get. Obviously, it's got to be something between the ears, but is that where you sort of find out where, do you have a guy that can pitch in high-leverage situations or not? Because if he succeeds in high-leverage situations, then he's clearly a guy that can rise to the moment. But then the flip side is maybe it makes it a little more difficult in the low leverage situations because he's so used to a certain feel heading out to the mound. And not like he's going to take the team lightly or anything, but heading out to the mound when it's like, okay, I've got to get out here. I've got to do exactly what I need to do and spot my pitches and repeat the mechanics and be totally locked in because we've got such a small margin for error here to win this game, as opposed to I'm going out here, maybe I'm just going out here to get some work in because we got a 5-run lead here, and I just need to go out and sort of, I don't know if it's like a side bullpen session, not like that because it's a real game, but I wonder how difficult it is to sort of get over that. And if it's another indication of like, okay, you do have a guy that's much more of a high leverage situation guy because he rises to the challenge and maybe can't get that same mindset when it's a 5-run lead.
Yeah, and I don't know if it's really the mindset as much as it is the style as far as like the pitch selection, because he was missing with a lot of fastballs, and he's not a guy that throws the majority of his pitches as fastballs. We've talked about that before. There have been times when he's thrown 20 pitches and maybe 3 have been fastballs, or maybe 2 have been fastballs. So when you get a pitcher away from his style or his element, I just don't think you're going to get the same results. So that's why I think oftentimes when you see closers in those non-save situations, it's just not exactly the same, unless per se that closer is a guy that's a fastball pitcher, because in 11-1 games or sizable margin games, normally the catcher's putting down fastball because it's let's get this thing going, let's pitch contact, and let's get it over with. And unfortunately for pitchers like Scott Barlow, and I know myself, that just was not my style, so it just didn't work out so well. And I think another thing, you got to give credit to the Detroit hitters, the way they came back. I mean, I think there was a little bit of a feeling from the night before when they were down 2 runs in the 8th inning, hadn't scored a run all night. Next thing you know, they've got a three spot on the board to take the lead. So I think there was a little bit of that after effect of their success they had the night before against that Royals bullpen.
Visiting with Jeff Montgomery, Bally Sports, Royals Hall of Famer, presented by First Federal Bank of Kansas City. I want to get into some more players and talk about some of the pitching and things we've seen, but I mentioned Royals Hall of Famer, and they talked about it on the broadcast last night, that one of the things you can get if you were a part of the bid and if you won that bid of the Hall of Fame experience of getting a couple of seats at the Hall of Fame dinner and then being able to present Ned Yost with the jacket. And my first thought was, oh, really? I don't remember them presenting jackets to Royals Hall of Famers, but that's cool. I guess I just missed the whole thing. And then I'm like, where have I been? And then they talked about it, that this is the first year they're going to be doing those things. And at that Hall of Fame dinner, the Royals Hall of Famers will all be presented with their powder blue jackets. How did this whole thing come about? And I think it's awesome. I think it's really cool to see. We see it in the NFL where a guy wears the gold jacket, and it's sort of talked about like, hey, you get that gold jacket, you know exactly what it means, a Hall of Famer. And now if we're talking about Royals Hall of Famers, Monty, hey, you get that powder blue jacket. It's what you've done in your Royals career.
Yeah, I think it really kind of started a few years ago when Royals legendary scout Art Stewart passed away. He was notorious for wearing that jacket almost all the time. He had that light blue jacket on, and as a result, a lot of the executives in the organization had the idea, let's wear these jackets frequently to kind of give a little honor to Art Stewart, who had passed away. Well, they then decided, well, let's take it a little bit further and maybe look at a way of doing something a little different, a little special for the Hall of Fame inductees. And Ned Yost, being this year's inductee, is going to be the first one to receive it. But we're going to have a dinner. I believe it's on a Thursday night. It's an off day. I believe it's August 31st, and all the Royals Hall of Famers will be there, and we will be presented with those light blue jackets. So it'll be something that'll be special. We'll wear them on the field when the inductees are having their ceremony for their induction. So I think it's a really neat idea. I think it's something that's a little different. I think a lot of organizations, maybe there's a ring or there's something more traditional with regards to what the inductees receive. I know when historically what they have done is they've presented the Hall of Famers with a portrait. John Martin is the artist who did mine, and he's done a lot of covers for the Royals media guides, things of that nature back in the day, and so it was just different what they presented, and I think every organization has their own flavor as far as what they think is right, but Now it'll be the Royals Hall of Fame jacket, as well as, I believe, still the portrait commemorating your career.
That's awesome. Jeff Montgomery, Royals Hall of Famer, Bally Sports, presented by First Federal Bank of Kansas City. Carlos Hernandez, I bring him up. We talked a little bit about him in the show today, that Steve Adams with MLB trade rumors talked about, Royals trade candidates and said, Scott Barlow's a guy that's been talked about, but there's someone with the Royals that is having a breakout year that might get some interest across the league because of what he's been doing and maybe the hope of who he is right now and what he can ultimately become, and still has 4 years of team control, and that is Carlos Hernandez, who was having an absolute breakout year. 31 outings since mid-April, and 24 of the 31 he's given up no runs. He's been really good since mid-July. This is one of the things I wanted to talk to you about, Monty. Since mid-July, he's essentially stopped using his curveball. I mean, he was a 4-pitch pitcher even as a reliever, and that curveball was getting hit around. And so this is just a great strategy, Monty. He said, well, I'm going to stop throwing it because I've got 3 other pitches that seem to be pretty good and a damn fine fastball. So why don't I just work off that and split finger and a slider and things like that? So what are you seeing from Carlos Hernandez? And is it as simple as a tweak of, I throw that curveball a lot, and it's not very effective, and it's getting hit around. Why don't I stick with my fastball that's been really good, and the shape is much better this year, with my slider and my split finger that I can use against lefties, and the handedness, the right-left split has not been any different for Carlos Hernandez this year. So what are you seeing from him, and do the Royals have something of a guy that, whether it's back of the bullpen or maybe even stepping in if Scott Barlow is traded?
Yeah, so first of all, I guess my initial reaction or feeling toward him being traded, I said that it would be a very long shot for Carlos Hernandez to be traded, because he's a player that's under control for an extended period here. He's a player that can be part of the future regardless of what part of that bullpen he's in. He's proven that he can pitch in high-leverage situations. And then with regards to his pitch mix, I mean, sometimes it's a head-scratcher to me. I had an old pitching coach back in the minor leagues in the Reds organization named Harry Dorish, and he had a comment that a lot of players will remember who had the good fortune of working with Harry Dorish. He said, don't be a Thomas Edison out on the pitcher's mound. In other words, don't be out there trying to invent things. Keep things simple. If you've got something that works, stick with it. And his philosophy was, you only need 3 pitches to be a successful pitcher in the major leagues. And it doesn't matter what those 3 pitches are, as long as one of them is a fastball that you can command. So fastball, curveball, fastball, changeup, fastball, slider, whatever your mix is, you have to have 3 pitches in order to be successful at the major league level on a long-term, sustainable basis. But I see pitchers all the time who have great levels of success. Suddenly, they're trying to incorporate new pitches and becoming Thomas Edison's, trying to invent things to change. And I'm okay with those changes if necessary, but if you don't need it, why complicate things? And I think that's maybe what Carlos is realizing, that as a guy who's not going to be out for more than 1 or sometimes maybe 2 innings, he doesn't need to have a bunch of pitches. He doesn't need to have that 4th or maybe even 5th pitch that, as a reliever, you're never going to be out there and be in a situation where you're going to get beat on a pitch that's something other than your first pitch or your second pitch. You want to really concentrate on those pitches in big situations when the game's close and you have to execute a pitch. Stick with what has got you there, and I think that's what Carlos is realizing. His fastball plays up so nice that with just 1 or 2 other pitches, he's going to be just fine.
Yeah, visiting with Jeff Montgomery, Bally Sports Royals Hall of Famer. And one of the guys that we talk about, pitching off the fastball and just sort of just focusing on that, Alec Marsh. We talked about him after his first outing, June 30th. He went out 4 innings, 5 earned runs, but it was like, I feel like there was something there. I know you say 5 earned runs in 4 innings and 4 walks and 5 strikeouts, and he gave up a couple of home runs. That doesn't seem like anything that you would be, excited about. Next outing, 5 innings, 2 earned runs, 5 Ks, 3 walks, and then what he did over the weekend, Monty, 6 innings, 2 earned runs, 1 walk, 11 strikeouts, and about 70% of his pitches were fastballs. He was just simply throwing his fastball, spotting it, throwing it up in the zone, It had great life on it. It wasn't just straight down the middle of he throws 99. Yeah, but he throws 99 straight. Okay, this is Major League Baseball now. These guys are going to hit that. So what do you think the Royals have in Alec Marsh? Is this one to where you got to wait for other teams to see the book and start to adjust to what he has? Because you talk about working off the fastball and whether that fastball is working or not. I mean, he goes out there and 7 out of every 10 pitches he threw over the weekend was a fastball, and he's still got 11 strikeouts.
Yeah, and I think the biggest thing, I mean, I talk about baseball almost every night on a postgame show, and I hear comments from the manager almost every night on a postgame show, and when a pitcher has a good game, it's almost guaranteed that either I'm going to say something or the manager in his postgame show is going to say, his postgame press conference is going to say something about fastball command. Why was he so good tonight? Well, he commanded his fastball. So Alec Marsh or any other pitcher, if he goes out there with plus fastball and the ability to command that fastball, you're going to have a high degree of success. I mean, for example, last night, Daniel Lynch, he made a couple mistakes up in his zone, got hit, 2 swings to the bats, 5 runs. But that's just baseball. That's something that you're going to go through, and you're going to experience, successes and failures. And for pitchers, generally, it's going to revolve around fastball command. So if you have your fastball command, you can strike out 11. And if you don't have your fastball command, you're probably not going to strike out 11. You're probably backing up some bases. So I think with Alec Marsh, you've got a guy that has the ability to miss bats. He's got outstanding stuff. And the other thing about him, it seems like every game he gets a little bit better. He doesn't seem like a guy that's got 3 Major League games under his belt. He seems like a guy that understands his role, understands who he can be, and he's out there working hard to prove that he can pitch at this level.
Yeah, that's interesting. We kind of talked about that when in his first outing after that June 30th game against the Dodgers. And, Josh and I were in a conversation about that. And it is not to disparage somebody else. It is just simply a comparison of what we have in Royals players that have come up in young players. But Alec Marsh on the mound looks like he wants to be there. Looks like he wants to control the game. And he's the most confident guy in that matchup between pitcher and batter. He looks like somebody that is, a presence on the mound that's almost like, okay, I dare you to try to hit this. And we compared it to, and again, it's unfortunate, but Jackson Kowar's first couple of outings when he made his debut, and it looked like he wanted to be anywhere but than the mound on those couple of games. That sort of mentality, is that natural? Is that something you can sort of develop, that you go out there on the mound and it's just like, no, I'm controlling this game. I'm going to attack you, a guy who's made 3 outings in his career, but he looks incredibly confident. He looks like he belongs. And between the ears and his sort of approach and mentality on the mound, looks like he believes not only does he belong, but I've got the advantage over whoever's in the box.
Yeah, I think everyone works very hard to get to a certain point in their career. And I don't care if it's a career in a baseball, as a baseball player, or maybe even a radio broadcaster. Jason, you can attest to this. The more repetitions you get, the better you're going to be. But if you have that level of calm and that level of composure early in your career, I mean, it's such an advantage because you don't have to fight through that. You don't have to work through getting through all that stage of being, the jitters and all the adrenaline and all those things that sometimes you cannot control. So I think he's just a young man who's fortunate to have that part, seemingly under his belt already. It doesn't seem to faze him. He did mention the fact that his first game, he triple deck stadium, all those things that you do for the first time, and maybe that that especially that first inning or that first batter, you're going to feel that to a very, very high level. But once you settle in and figure things out, just move forward and just understand that it's the same game. It doesn't matter what level you're playing at. It's the same game as far as the pitcher smells, the same distance and all those. It's just a matter of finding ways to be who you are, stay within yourself, and not allow those elements to disrupt what you're trying to do on the mound.
Jeff Montgomery's our guest. When Darren Blanco swung and the ball left his bat, did you think the 33-year drought was snapped?
I really did. I mean, I know he doesn't have a lot of power, but gosh, the ball had that the angle, I guess, when it came off his bat. That ball's going in the seats somewhere. And when he hit it, I think everybody in the stadium held their breath, just hoping that it was going to go, but unfortunately, it just landed right there at the base of the wall for a double for him. But what a night for Dairon Blanco. It's a young man who's done a lot of things with his speed, but last night, with the 4 hits is just something special.
What does he bring to the table? What does he bring to this team? He's he's got some talent. He's not hitting all that well this year until last night's 4-hit night. But what do you see from Dairon Blanco and his place on a major league roster?
Well, he put up tremendous numbers in Omaha. Before you have to get called up, especially in that stolen base department. But you can't steal first base. You have to find a way to get on base, and he was doing that. But I think the hardest thing for a player like Blanco is when you get to the big leagues, getting consistent repetitions in order to go out and have the timing necessary to hit major league pitching. And that's always a big challenge for someone who gets called up and they don't play 5 or 6 days a week. They're playing maybe once or twice a week. Just really, really difficult. You have to be a very special athlete in order to handle that situation. And you don't see many guys that are really good at it. The ones that are, they have long careers because it's just so unusual.
Visiting with Jeff Montgomery, Bally Sports, Royals Hall of Famer, presented by First Federal Bank of Kansas City. Game number 3 of this 3-game set for the Royals and Tigers tonight, coming up at 7:10. They're out at Kauffman Stadium, so we'll see what goes on tonight, and the importance of just getting a series victory, opening up the second half of the season or post All-Star break. You didn't get swept by the Rays, found a way to get that one, and if it wasn't for one inning the other night, we'd be talking about a chance and an opportunity for a sweep for this Royals. So those series wins become important, and just along the line for a younger team learning how to win. Can you find ways to get that rubber match? Can you find ways to get that series victory for you?
Yeah, that's the thing that is the next step. I mean, this is obviously a year of evaluation and development, figuring out who fits on your roster long term. Unfortunately, there have been a number of injuries that have kind of maybe put that on a little bit of a slower pace than you would like. I mean, players like Drew Waters and Daniel Lynch, for example, hurt. Losing Chris Bubich for the year with Tommy John. Just a lot of unfortunate situations regarding injuries. Now, those are different if you're a player who's already established yourself, but a player who's looking for a way to establish his spot on a roster, it is somewhat of a setback. But now the second half of the season, I think you kind of not start over, but you look at, hey, what are you able to do down the stretch, this last 2.5, 3 months of the season? Can you put up consistent numbers over that longer period of time in order to prove that you're a guy that's deserving of a spot on the roster for a long-term situation? So hopefully that's something we're going to see a lot more of. I always say this team's record is, unfortunately, I think we're 41 games under 500, which is not good at all. But this team's played competitively in a lot of games. They just haven't won them. And I say the good teams find ways to play good enough to win. The bad teams play good enough to lose, and that's what we've seen a lot of during the first half. Now maybe this team will take a step in the right direction and play a lot more games just good enough to win.
It shows you how day-to-day and game-to-game I am when this is a 4-game set. And if they win tonight, it would be at least a tie of the series. But it certainly isn't the rubber match game tonight. Yes, 1-1 in this series with Detroit. 2 games left tonight, 7:10, and then on Thursday, 1:10 for the Royals before heading out on a road trip to New York and Cleveland. So, Monty, appreciate the time. As always, Royals Hall of Famer, Bally Sports, presented by First Federal Bank of Kansas City. Appreciate it, sir. Enjoy the games tonight, and we will talk next week when I believe you'll be in Cleveland next time we have a conversation. Appreciate it, sir.
Okay, Jason. Appreciate you having me on today.
All right, there's Jeff Montgomery, Bally Sports, Royals Hall of Famer, presented by First Federal Bank of Kansas City. And yes, 2 games left in the series against the Detroit Tigers. We'll see what they end up doing, but really game to game and at bat to at bat, starting pitcher to starting pitcher and reliever to reliever. Wins and losses, all of that. We've discussed those things. If it's a win by the Royals and it's a bunch of guys that aren't going to be here in a couple of years, it doesn't really affect me. If it's a loss by the Royals and a number of guys that are going to be here, had a really good game, I'll take that over the former. We'll take a timeout. We'll come back. We'll continue rolling, heading up until 2 o'clock on this Wednesday edition of The Zone at Sports Radio 810 WHB.
You're in the zone with Jason Anderson on
Kramer, Valley Sports as well. We talked in the first part of the show about some of the trade conversation as we discussed there with Scott Barlow and what that ultimately means for his trade value after the outing last night. And interesting talking about, Monty saying that, some of these guys coming in non-save situations, the reason it can be somewhat of a roller coaster is sometimes you're just there, just throw strikes and, raid the zone, which is what you want to do. But also if you're kind of working the edges too, the only issue was that, he was walking guys last night. Like, he was wild. It wasn't just like, let me throw a fastball and then boom, there's a home run. Let me throw a fastball, another home run. The 3 walks, certainly not anything to write home to mom about. So I don't put too much stock in the one outing last night, whereas he's had, 6-7 outings in a row where he's looked really good. It was one outing. If he goes out there again and struggles, then yeah, you start to be a little more concerned about that and would like the Royals to go ahead and trade him immediately. But I think teams that are wanting Scott Barlow or have scouts that are there to watch Scott Barlow, they've seen him over the course of the last couple of months or so, and they've seen his track record that's there. The question would be, the mile per hour on his fastball is down 2 miles an hour from 2 years ago. If I were a scout for a team that's, talking to the GM about trading for him, these are the questions I would have the GM ask the Royals about what they're getting in Scott Barlow with one more year of team control, in that, he was working mid 95, 95.6, 95.7, things like that. His fastball 2 years ago, he's now working 93. Why? 93.3, 93.4. Like, why is he working in that area as opposed to a couple of years ago? Is it a change that he made specifically for the shape of the fastball? And maybe that's what the analytics would say, is that, miles per hour are down, but the effectiveness is up. Because miles per hour are down last year from what they were in 2021, but last year was a career year, was as good as Scott Barlow, was in his career. And that was with, lower RPM or MPH from the year before. So we'll see. Carlos Hernandez has been awesome. His name was thrown out there with Steve Adams from MLB Trade Rumors about he should be getting looks. And, we've discussed other guys. But it's a couple of weeks away is the trade deadline. And we'll see what Scott Barlow will look like the next outing and the next outing and the next outing and the next outing, with 2 games left with the Detroit Tigers, not just one. So shows you how much, Josh, I'm paying attention to the daily series that are going on with the Royals now that the Chiefs are in training camp. I'm like, hey, Monty, the 3rd game of this 3-game set coming up tonight. We'll see if they can win the series in the rubber match. And that's right. It's a 4-game set with the Tigers.
If they just alternated 4-game series with the Rays and Tigers the rest of the season, I think it would take me a month to notice.
Playing the Rays again. Oh, that's cool.
Oh, that's good. They've been good against the Rays this year. That's kind of weird. Hey, the Tigers again. Yeah, these division. They are playing a lot of divisional games this year. Tampa. Huh, interesting. That'd be fun.
Have they played the Yankees this year? Because they're playing the Yankees starting Friday, but I don't think they have.
No, they end the year at home against the Yankees. So, that's your road.
So the first game against the Yankees will be Friday.
Yeah.
So it's post All-Star break. Hey, you got the Yankees coming up.
What do you think Kaufman's going to look like September 29th, 30th, and October 1st? That's Sunday. Hold on. We're going to the Chiefs schedule, everybody. Buckle up.
There you go.
We are going to figure out what Kaufman's going to look like for game 162. The Chiefs will be playing.
Where are they at?
At the Jets. Oh, KC in New York. Both sports. That's Sunday Night Football. So you could theoretically, go to the game at Kaufman and then get home in time for Sunday Night Football. But I bet that. Well, I was gonna say, but that'll be a pretty Yankee heavy crowd. But I don't know.
Guess
it's a football Sunday.
I mean, percentage wise, though, it would have to be a pretty Yankee heavy crowd.
Yeah.
Because if you're going to be showing up to that game, it would have to be to where you're in Kansas City. You haven't, is Garrick Dieter going to show up to that game so he can go watch his Yankees in KC? Because if you're a Royals fan, are you showing up that day or that series with, hopefully at that point you're just playing to make sure you've got one of the 3 worst records in all of baseball? I don't know what the intrigue would be of going out there for that weekend against the Yankees. Are there going to be black and white pinstripes all over the stadium, or percentage-wise?
Don't lose 100 games. Maybe they're at 109 right then. Or go see history as they lose 120.
No, they have 62. They're 62 and 99 going into that last game of the season. It's like, man, if they could just get this one more win. Oh, my goodness. 63-99 is just such a different season than 62-100. We need to show up and root this team on. The Chiefs don't play till tonight. Let's go, Royals fans. Show up in force.
If they're 62-99, the Yankees will be playing the hottest team in baseball in the second half.
That's right. And it'll be another one of those, well, here they go again. It's the September tease. It's what the Royals do.
This team was built for September.
They tease you in September. I've told you that this team, what Dayton and his staff is able to do is build a team that can win in September.
That's exactly right. Sorry, casuals. Maybe you want to know how baseball looks in April. Call me when September rolls around. That's when the stars shine.
This is apropos of absolutely nothing. What we're talking about in terms of like the play on the field.
Never stopped us before.
About this. I know, right? But I was thinking about this the other day when it was like, the way the Royals are playing, and if they were to trade Jordan Lyles and eat some of that salary, Salvi, if they eat that salary, like other guys, like how much are they willing to put in to show, like, hey, we'll spend some money. And then what John Sherman said at his press conference a few weeks ago, with the downtown stadium being such a big part of the conversation that's going on with the Royals team, and the big league clubs' performance or lack thereof and struggles bleeding over into the stadium issue, how smart would it be for John Sherman, J.J. Piccolo, to make a run at Shohei Ohtani, to offer him $500 million for 10 years? Because he's not going to take it. He's not going to sign the contract. Ohtani ain't playing in Kansas City. He's going to play at the coast, and even if the Royals offered him $500 for 10 years and $50 million a year, the Dodgers would come over the top, or the Yankees. They would be outbid. It may be out of your means, but he's never going to sign in Kansas City. And then if he doesn't, you can say, see, we're willing to spend the money. We want to go out and spend the money for the right players. We tried to get Shohei Ohtani, but here's the thing. We got to the max of what we could spend if we had the ballpark district. Now we can add on. Also, Ohtani, part of the reason he didn't want to sign here is because the clubhouse issues and the structure of the ballpark.
That's good. He's really worried about concrete cancer.
But you've got all these amenities at these other ballparks that these teams have that are great for the players, and they take care of them. We're trying to figure out how we even just get by with the minimum, and we'd have all of this. It would take so long, but he would be here for the building. It would be a stadium that Shohei Ohtani helped build, but we don't have him, and this is the next guy. We want to put this team in position for the next guy. All the while, there ain't a shot in hell Ohtani is signing in Kansas City.
Anyway, here's Jordan Lyles.
Just from a strategy marketing standpoint.
No. I love it. Look, as the architect of MLB, the SHO, my long-standing theory has been that next year Shohei Ohtani can not only save one team, he can save baseball by just not even rotating. You get one stretch. I can't remember what the numbers ended up working out at. But you get your 4 games per team, I think. That takes you to 120. It gives you some time off. We don't want to burn him out. Have a little injury buffer in there. Shohei Ohtani plays 4 games with every team in the Major League Baseball. He starts once for every team. Everybody can print up their jerseys. They'll fill out the stadium. That is the way to save baseball right now. But to save the perception that John Sherman is cheap, I think you've nailed it. It is virtually no risk. There is literally no financial cost, and it feels like you are big game hunting. This is the Chiefs, like, being rumored to be in connection with Peyton Manning. It's like, all right, that's adorable, but, like, is this actually, come on, who thinks this is going to happen? Oh, that was probably closer than Ohtani to Kansas City would be. I love this plan. I think that this is brilliant.
I think it would be smart business-wise to do that if there was a way to tap into, like, a TV broadcast rights deal with Japan. Unfortunately, you're not going to see that money because all they have to do is buy MLB extra innings, and it's not a local game for them. The Royals, they can watch every single game in Major League Baseball. They can watch every single Shohei Ohtani game, and the money then collectively bargained or shared with the MLB teams. Like, it's not an RSN. It's not a local TV deal to where we've talked about it, the Braves and the Rangers and how much more money per year they get than the Royals. It's like 60, 70 million per year in their local TV network deal that is not shared in revenue. Now, every single year, boom, here's 60 million more to the Rangers. Okay, cool. There's three $20 million players you can go and buy on the free agent market if you want to, or invest more in the Dominican or international free agents or whatever it might be. Like if there was a way that you would have that sort of broadcast rights deal with a different country, then yeah, it is worth the money to go and pay the $50 million per year, because you would get that back and then some if you could set up a broadcast rights deal in Japan specifically for your team like you do the RSNs. It's just MLB extra innings. That's all it takes. It's for them to go and buy that. They watch every single game. You're not going to see that money. But, I mean, I'd certainly – $500 million, 10 years. Here you go, Shohei. Take it or leave it. Well, he's going to leave it.
He will leave it, and everybody will be fine. You'll just keep it moving after that. I think this is next level thinking. I'm in. I will take my Ohtani Royals jersey whenever it's available.
Hey, believe me, I'd love for them to go and do it. It ain't my money. Go and give them the money. Go and give them the $500 million over 10 years. It's Shohei Ohtani. How much are you increasing, like, your jersey sales and the
gonna sell
certainly
so many
the gates.
hot dogs? Come on.
There were so many hot dogs that'll be sold. So many hot dogs. But you would have a lot of people showing up to Royals games to watch Ohtani. You'd have a completely different country and culture that would be showing up to watch Royals games and to watch Ohtani. Like, yeah, you would see a return on investment immediately, whatever team gets Shohei Ohtani. And I don't know if it's only going to be $50 million per year that's going to get him. Because we talked about it, like what's the highest paid on a annual average value for a position player? Like, $40 million. And then the highest paid pitcher, like $40 million. Okay, you're getting both. So $80 million? Like, you're not going to pay him 80, but you're getting a guy that combined, if you got two different players of his caliber of what he brings, you'd be paying that much money. So you're getting value in that.
John Sherman, go grab a second job, man. I mean, figure out whatever you got to do. Liquidate some assets, sell a boat. I don't know what your deal is, but find that Ohtani money in the couch cushions.
Open up a lemonade stand right outside.
Yes.
That if it's off the premises, it can't be. It's not revenue sharing. You keep that. Every single cent of that lemonade stand would be put right back into the team to Shohei Ohtani.
Frankly, not doing this is bad business.
Yeah, hey, how about this? You want your stadium? Go get Ohtani. You sign Shohei Ohtani, you will get your stadium.
And you know what? Use some of my tax dollars to pay Ohtani a salary. I'm in. You got me. I'm in.
But I mean, honestly, like if they, it's not going to happen. I know this, but if they went out and won the bidding war for Ohtani and he signed with the Royals, there will be, well, I don't know. How high of a percentage would the yes vote be for the Royals downtown stadium?
High enough. And higher
70, 80, 51.
Yeah.
I know that. You would get it. There you go. You got it. There's your stadium. You want it? It's the house that Ohtani built. He never even played a game with the Royals. And it'd be the house that Ohtani built. Oh, all right. We'll take a timeout. We'll come back and continue living in fantasy land next.
Take the show with you by listening live on 810WHB.com, in the 810 mobile app, or by subscribing to The Zone wherever you get your podcasts.
Hey, folks, it's Todd Lebo here for my friends over at Robert Brogdon's Olathe.
how they can combat the depressed market of running backs. This is a report from Pro Football Talk, somebody that has knowledge of the text chain. The first strategy was to publicly complain on Twitter. It's not a joke. That's the first strategy of attacking the depressed market, which, by the way, you saw a lot of big-name running backs yesterday tweeting out stuff right around the same time.
With some very similar language, which I did notice yesterday.
Yep. Apparently that is part of this whole trying to be organized and trying to figure out how they can attack the depressed market of running backs. The problem is how you attack that is to show that you have value that adds to wins and adds to expected points by your play on the field. And that's not easy to do. I mean, the tight end has shown that it has real value than the way that it used to be viewed. And you know what Kelsey and those guys are doing? Tight end university. So they can make the entire position better. And if the entire position becomes better and more valuable, they then get more money. I don't know if there's going to be a running back university or if it would even matter from the analytical standpoint. But also at Pro Football Talk, one of the people involved said, why are we here? It said, blame the analytics community. And Mike said that the source said, blame Mike Shannon and the analytics community. The irony is that his son, Kyle Shanahan, has had a number of different running backs, Carlos Hyde and Breda and Mostert and Wilson, but now they have Christian McCaffrey.
Yep.
But Mike Shanahan had Terrell Davis and Alandis Gary and Mike Anderson, and he sort of showed, hey, my system, running back doesn't matter.
I don't see the problem here, Jason. I've been fighting depression by complaining on Twitter for years now. This isn't new.
What's our first step? Let's complain publicly. All right. Step number 2. We'll get that in a second. First of all, everybody go tweet.
Your third step should be out wide.
What's our fourth step? Switch positions.
Yes.
Okay, great.
Downfield.
Fifth step, make it in the NFL with switching positions. We'll see.
Family Leisure is finally having our summer sale. Lots of cold and rain before has led to great deals now. Come in now for the best deals of the year. Save hundreds, even thousands on Tropic Seas hot tubs, Leisure Select, Hanneman, and Jensen furniture. Locally owned and operated, shop Family Leisure for the best prices, best products, best selection. Family Leisure's summer sale happening now, where family and fun come together at Family Leisure, K10 and Ridgeview in Olathe.
913-888-7727. Awesome!
Men, summer is here. It's a time to vacation, get outside, and enjoy life with the one you love. But if you have erectile dysfunction, you know how it makes you feel. Embarrassed, frustrated, even angry. And that can make summertime a lot